Good and fair evening, my friends. Welcome back to another night in the tavern. I saw, Milu, that you did resubscribe to the channel over on Twitch. Thank you kindly for that. Matty, thank you kindly for the raid. I'll give you a little toot on the raid horn. Appreciate you for that, my friend. K-Babe, hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, friends. Molly Sue, Frost, Chatty Matty, K-Babe, Milu, Gunnar, hello my friends, good to see you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll go get Milo here, since he's a more he's doing the young man's job now. since Boo is
gotta do the undesirable tasks.
yeah, he's the new guy on the block. So he doesn't. He has to do all of the hard work. Ashley, hello, love. Good to see you. Welcome in. Yeah, and he's so floppy and malleable. He'll just like hang out with you. He's like, yeah. He loves to kick it. Now he's headless though.
I know.
Poor kitty lost his head. They're working too hard to do that to you. I should probably let him. Yeah. Should probably let him go back to resting. Since he's losing his head over all of the hard labor he's putting in right now. Alright, back to mom.
Oh, the beautiful.
Photobomb from Cody in the background. Come here, come say hello. You come say hi. Abo. Oh. There he is, the big old hound. Actually a little bit easier for you to get in frame this way because the camera points down now. That's spectacular, Muddy. I'm glad to hear it. Yes, he is a Bengal. Boo is half Bengal and Milo is full-blooded Bengal. I'm a bit on the quiet side. Let's see if I can fix that. Am I still a bit on the quiet side? I realize that my microphone is further away than it normally is. And I have that for you, Matty. I'll send it to you after story time tonight. Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you for letting me know. Jessica, hello, good evening, welcome in. And hello, friends all across the world. Welcome back to the Black Dragon Tavern. We are once again in the world of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And we're a good deal of the way through. Let's see, we are at present 61% through the book, which means we have, well, obviously we have 39% left, but we're over halfway done. That's something else, isn't it? We've got okay, so the last chapter that we were in was well, Ron and Harry were in Slughorn's office. Ron drank some mead and became poisoned, and Harry had to shove a Bezor down his throat. And that's where we left off last time. Valkyrie love, hello, hello, Bear. Good evening, my friend. Good news, I got my gilded profile back. Spectacular to hear. That is good news. Guess we'll have to read the Twilight series when Harry Potter is over. Oh, please don't make me do that. Boyd, welcome in, and Darth Nexus, my friend, welcome in. Good to see you all. Well, it looks like we've already got a full house this evening, so I guess we'd better get right into it. But yes, everyone, grab your seats. I'm voting for Aragon. Yeah, I don't know what our next family-friendly series is going to be. Aragon's been on the docket for a while. We had Golden Compass. We did Inkheart, and there were a good number of people who wanted to do Expel, but we haven't yet. So there's a whole world out there that we could dive into. Fill your tankers, my friends, and we'll get into some story time here in just a minute. It could be worse. We could vote on... Well, 50 Shades of Grey... Didn't 50 Shades of Grey start out as a fan fiction for Twilight? Am I wrong in remembering that? Isn't that what it was? That's not family friendly. It'll have to be a Tuesday book. Teresa, hello. Olivia came by. She loves her trees, but she carried the card that came in like it was money. She loves getting mail. To be fair, I love getting mail. I love getting mail too. It's always the thrill of a letter can never be replaced. Like when you look at the excitement of getting a text message or getting an email, it's not really the same because we get so many of them. But when you get a letter from somebody, it's genuinely exciting to get a letter from someone. Sparkling vampires is pretty funny though. Like you can't go out into the sunlight because you'll sparkle and everybody will know you're a vampire. That's hilarious. That is a very funny thing. I got it right. Okay, Darth. Next is I sometimes I'll remember things and I'm like I have to ask myself if it's a thing I actually remember or if it's a thing I made up in my head. Getting a letter in the mail makes a person feel warm and fuzzy. Yeah, that's why when we send order, because there are a few things that come from the tavern that are drop shipped because we don't have the ability to make them here at home. But when we ship something out, we always try to make sure that there's a letter or a note with it, because it makes it's more fun to get that way. And we appreciate anybody who orders anything from us, so we try to show that appreciation. I used to love getting letters in the mail when I was younger. Right, it's just sort of this nostalgic thing. I've not received a letter from someone in years now. It is such a dying art, the art of sending letters, isn't it? It's so far lost that it's tragic. It's tragic. I haven't gotten a letter in probably 15 years. Yeah, we don't send letters like we used to, and it is a sad thing. Mike, thank you for the heart me and the Go Popular over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Jesus, hello brother, how are you? Rockhound, a long time no see, my friend. I'm good, all is well. You see, the tavern is open and we're doing quite well. It's good to see you, welcome in. Mary Beth, hello, welcome. Good to see you. I got a massive thrill when I got a Christmas card from Destiny. Yeah, it's just, you really can't beat it. My only letters come from the bank. Those aren't as exciting. They're exciting in a different way. They're exciting in a dreaded way. I've been working 2 jobs and I don't have enough time for storytelling. That is tragic, Hannah, but you have to take care of yourself. And I leave the stories up over on YouTube for a couple of days after they're done, just in case anybody missed it live and they wanted to. We don't, and Bear has been I don't want to say bugging because he hasn't been bugging me, but the lady and I need to get a PO box, and we've not done it yet. But as soon as I have one, I'll make it available to everyone, because it's something we should have done ages ago. But I missed a few weeks. Has the catastrophe improved? I recall Magic Box was on the struggle bus. Yeah, we actually, we were, that was, yes, it's been about, yeah, Rockhound is from way back. Rockhound is from back before we even became the town. But Jessica, we rebuilt, we built an entirely new Magic Box. It was very expensive, and we were very grateful that we had enough to actually build what we needed. And then we were having internet issues, so we had to get something to stabilize the portals. And now we've got everything back up and running, and we have had almost no issues for the last couple of weeks, and we're very grateful for it. We pretty much cleaned ourselves out fixing the problem, but we're grateful that the problems are now fixed. Cormac, Tyson, my friend, good to see you. I had a friend when I was still in the barracks that got a calligraphy kit, and we started writing letters back and forth. I still have a couple of them. It's just such a beautiful thing. Like, my grandfather still writes letters to my grandmother all throughout the year. Yeah, and he's with her almost all the time, but he still writes her letters. No one sends letters or cards. Texted people about sending Olivia a card or a note. I hope she'll get some soon. Yeah, it's just such a... You have been pestering me about the P.O. Box for over a year now. And I need to go get one. It's just, we thought we were going to be ready to move the tavern, and I didn't, because out here they're all contract. You have to contract for a certain amount of time. And I didn't want to do that if we were going to be moving, but the situation keeps changing, so... Yeah, we're very grateful that we were able to get things fixed and back up and running. It's been slow going, getting the work back up and running, but we're well on our way. And again, we're grateful that we were able to handle all of the things that came in. Again, it pretty much cleaned us out, but we're so happy we were able to take care of it. My mom always taped all the Christmas cards we'd get to the basement door. Some years it would be entirely full. I still do it. And I'd be lucky if there's even 10 on the door. Yeah, that's... We have not had any word from Captain Hoodie, but she was in Gilded yesterday. Slingo, hello my friend! The most gorgeous man alive, you flatter me. I'm maybe in the top 4, but most gorgeous man alive is overly generous. How's it going, my friend? Good, Matty, good. Matty's been playing Don't Starve with a lady and I. That's a game. And now he's... now we're making sure he doesn't starve in real life. The last one I got was from my grandma back in 2005. Yeah, we've lost the art of letter writing. It's such a sad thing. Update on my job position. I've been apprenticing a few technicians every day this week. That is spectacular, Tyson. I'm glad to hear it. I'm alive, bro, just living day by day. How are you? Could not be better. The lady and I finally got all of our equipment back up and running, and as I said, it was very expensive, but we were fortunate that we were able to take care of it. And now we just have to work on recouping everything that we had to spend, because it was substantial. We ended up spending almost everything we had in savings, which was close to $10,000, to fix everything that was wrong, to get us back on track for working. It was a lot, but we're grateful that we were able to do it. And that in and of itself has made it so that we can't move yet. But the lady and I were just talking actually last week about getting a P.O. box set up so that we could exchange letters with tavern folk. The road of Maddie's corpses, right? Susan, thank you for the heart, mate. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. Hopefully all of that comes back to you. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. As long as I've always stood on the hill of, as long as whatever we are making is valuable to somebody, we will. Yeah, our magic box broke. Our main computer rig stopped working, and more or less died, and we weren't able to do the work. So it was basically stopped all of the work that we were doing. We started a bunch of projects at the beginning of the year, and we're only just now able to get back to them. So it was rough. But yeah, love joining you. Just ping me if you need anyone to join. Of course, Matty, of course. Would you be moving within the state you're in or to a new location in town? It depends. It depends on the situation. If we are fortunate enough to be able to go somewhere where we can actually open the doors of the tavern, it would be out of the state that we currently live. If it's just that we are getting out of where we currently are, it would be within the state. So it really depends on what the financial situation is going forward. If we have enough to start the tavern project, we would be leaving the state. But if it's not enough to do that, then we would be moving probably closer to some family. so that, because we do have some elderly family here in the state that we would be moving closer to assist. Because the idea would be also to get the family out as well with us in the meantime. About bloody time, so many things I've wanted to send you. Ads in 5. Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm going to run a round of ads over on Twitch. It'll be 3 minutes, and then we'll have 60 minutes without ads. I do apologize. Twitch makes us run them in order to keep the pre-rolls off, but I appreciate you for sitting through them. It means a lot, and for anyone who doesn't have a sub, I apologize for the ad hell you're going to be in for a minute, but it does assist the tavern when you do so thank you kindly, and we'll be right back. Wookie Cookie, hello, hello, onward to a chillier place. That is the goal. The goal is to be somewhere where we're not quite so entrenched in the heat, because the lady nor I do well with the heat. We prefer the cool weather, that's for sure. Wookie Cookie, it's good to see you, my friend. Alright, so once all of our Twitch friends are back, that'll be in 2 minutes 20 seconds. We'll start on chapter 19 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I didn't even get I didn't even get the notification. It's not even here in the dashboard for me. Slingo. I subbed, I don't know if you saw, supporting a man who helped me on my journey. All I did was shout you out, brother. Everything that you've done on your journey is solely attributed to you, my friend. But thank you for the sub. Here, tell you what, I will repop Milu's sub, so you can get your meat of the Morning Star there, because I didn't get the notification is nowhere for me, but I'll get you the raise, the shout out, the collabs helped a ton. Your success is yours, my friend. I was just there to see it. I feel like we could have a whole stream dedicated to discussing different topics each time. We definitely could. And live schedules are changing. It's not going to be right away, but live schedules are changing because the lady and I have looked at our schedule, and a lot of it is unsustainable at the rate that we're working. Now, Storytime is not going away. We're still going to have the same amount of Storytime. But the way that we do story time and the different things is going to be changing, and the days might be changing. So I will let everyone know well ahead of time before we change anything. But one of the big changes is we'll be having a discussion day where we just talk about topics, and it's a little bit more freeform, like with the rants and the raves. Kristen, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Grab your seat, fill your drink. It is, in fact, story time. We got 25 seconds, and then we will begin chapter 19. Yeah, there are a lot of very wonderful things that the lady and I have coming up, and we're excited to share them with you guys. And now that everything is working, we've had steady workflow for the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and no interruptions, no technical problems. My rig, the rig I'm using for my Magic Box work, is a little bit slow, but the primary rig that the lady is using for the big stuff is working immaculately, so absolutely no problems there. Thank you, Gunnar, I appreciate you, brother. So topics like you bullshitting about not being a good man, Castle. That's not. Look. I'm being honest about my self-perception. Tyson, thank you for the resub, brother. Enjoy your meat of the Morning Star, my friend. I love how the one question I want to ask is, of my characters, who is your current favorite? but then my brain is also going, bad Matty. Well, and I always have a hard time because I like stories. Like I even with stories like Aragon, right? Because Aragon was one of my favorite young adult books. It was one of the first books I picked up myself and read. I didn't have any particular characters that I was attached to. I get attached to stories and worlds. So when a story and a world is really good, I love that. And good characters are just a part of that. And I don't know if I'm explaining that properly, but I love the world of Eragon. I love the story and the progress of Eragon. So I don't get particularly attached to characters. There are some characters that I do really like, that I find them to be very interesting, but more often than not, I get attached to stories. How are the lady and the boy feeling, Castle? The lady is feeling a little bit better. The boy is still sick. And I got whatever it was that they had. It hasn't hit me hard yet. I'll probably be knocked out over the weekend, but I'm scratchy in the throat. My nose is sore and a little bit dry, and I'm feeling dry around the edges. So I'll probably be sick this weekend, and then I'll be back with a fervor come Monday. Yeah, I do have a humidifier set up over in the back. I mean, we might be able to do Valhalla calling. Yeah, who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But alright, we ready for stories, friends? Let me get... look, we need an overwhelming vote before we can start stories. If I get one hand raised, that means we're going to start reading. Make sure you hydrate, and Vicks. Yeah, I've been powering through the water. Today I think I've already had 70 odd ounces. Oh, we got the one hand up. There we go. Feeling like Bilbo myself right now. Too little butter stretched over too much bread. That'll happen, and in your situation, absolutely justified, Gunnar. It's justified to feel that way. Those pregnancies are making more goblins fast. I don't know, yeah, we got Herring gave us a little Italian raised up. Also, Herring, I'm not used to seeing you over on TikTok, so it threw me off for a second when I saw your name pop up over there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us could ever deny or refute that our Lord and teacher Sir Tolkien was a master wordsmith, and the man was a miracle and mastery of words. All right, let us begin, friends. Chapter 19, Elf Tales. Settle in, fill your mugs. It's story time, kids. Interesting, because we actually went up on Twitch about 20 minutes before we went up on TikTok, so that's funny, Herring. These platforms are dreadfully inconsistent. Alright, let's get into the story. Chapter 19, Elf Tales. So, all in all, not one of Ron's better birthdays, said Fred. It was evening, the hospital wing was quiet, and the windows curtained. The lamps lit. Ron's was the only occupied bed. Harry, Hermione, Ginny were sitting around him. They had all spent the day waiting outside the double doors, trying to see inside whenever somebody went in or out. Madame Pomfrey had only let them enter at 8 o'clock. Fred and George had arrived at past 10. This isn't how we imagined handing over our present, said George grimly, putting down a large wrapped gift beside Ron's bed. A large wrapped gift on Ron's bedside cabinet and sitting beside Ginny. Yeah, when we pictured the scene, he was conscious, said Fred. There we were in Hogsmeade, waiting to surprise him, said George.
You were in Hogsmeade?
said Ginny, looking up. We were thinking of buying Zonkos, said Fred gloomily. A Hogsmeade branch, you know, but a fat lot of good it'll do us if you lot aren't around or allowed out on the weekends to buy our stuff anymore. But never mind that now. He drew up a chair beside Harry and looked at Ron's pale face. How exactly did it happen, Harry? Harry retold the story. He had already recounted it. It felt like 100 times to Dumbledore, to McGonagall, to Madame Pomfrey, to Hermione, to Ginny. And then I got the Bazor down his throat and his breathing eased up a bit. Slughorn ran for help. McGonagall and Madame Pomfrey turned up and they brought Ron up here. They reckon he'll be all right. Madame Pomfrey says he'll stay here for a week or so. Keep taking Essence of Rue. Blimey, it was lucky you thought of a Bazor, said George in a low voice. Lucky there was one in the room, said Harry, who kept turning cold at the thought of what had happened if he had not been able to lay his hands on the little stone. Hermione gave an almost inaudible sniff. She had been exceptionally quiet all day, having hurtled white-faced up to Harry outside the hospital wing and demanded to know what had happened. She had taken almost no part in Harry and Jenny's obsessive discussion about how Ron had been poisoned, but merely stood beside them, clenched-jawed and frightened-looking, until at last they had been allowed to see him. Do Mum and Dad know? Fred asked Ginny.
They've already seen him. They arrived an hour ago. They're in Dumbledore's office now, but they'll be back soon.
There was a pause while they all watched Ron mumble a little in his sleep. So, the poison was in the drink, said Fred quietly. Yeah, said Harry once. He could think of nothing else and was glad for the opportunity to start discussing it again. Slughorn poured it out. Would he have been able to slip something into Ron's glass without you seeing? Probably, said Harry. But why would Slughorn want to poison Ron? No idea, said Fred, frowning. You don't think he could have mixed up the glasses by mistake, do you? Meaning to get you?
Why would Slughorn want to poison Harry?
Asked Ginny. I don't know, said Fred. But there must be loads of people who'd like to poison Harry, mustn't there? Chosen one and all that.
So you think Slughorn's a Death Eater?
Said Ginny.
Anything's
possible, said Fred darkly.
He could be under the Imperious curse,
said George.
Or he could be innocent,
said Ginny.
The poison could have been in the bottle, in which case it was probably meant for Slughorn himself.
They would want to kill Slughorn. Dumbledore reckons Voldemort wanted Slughorn on his side, said Harry. Slughorn was in hiding for years before he came to Hogwarts, and he thought of the memory Dumbledore had not been able to extract from Slughorn. And maybe Voldemort wants him out of the way. Maybe he thinks he could be valuable to Dumbledore.
But you said Slughorn had been planning to give that bottle to Dumbledore for Christmas,
Ginny reminded him.
So the poisoner could have just as easily been after Dumbledore. Then the poisoner didn't know Slughorn very well,
said Hermione, speaking for the first time in hours and sounding as though she had a bad head cold.
Anyone who knew Slughorn would have known that there was a good chance he'd keep something tasty for himself.
Hermione? Croaked Ron unexpectedly from between them. They all fell silent, watching him anxiously, but after muttering incomprehensibly for a moment, he merely started snoring. The dormitory doors flew open, making them all jump. Hagrid came striding down towards them, his hair rain-flecked, his bearskin coat flapped behind him, a crossbow in his hand, leaving a trail of muddy, dolphin-sized footprints all over the floor. "Been in the forest all day?" he panted. "Aragog's worse than I've been reading to him. Didn't get up here to dinner just now, and then Professor Sprout told me about Ron. How is he?"
Not bad, said Harry. They say he'll be okay. No more than 6 visitors at a time, said Madame Pomfrey, hurrying out of her office. Hagrid makes 6, George pointed out. Oh, yes, said Madame Pomfrey, who seemed to have been counting Hagrid as several people due to his vastness. To cover her confusion, she hurried off to clear up his muddy footprints with her wand. "I don't believe this," said Hagrid hoarsely, shaking his great shaggy head as he stared down at Ron. "I just don't believe it. Look at him lying there. Who'd want to hurt him, eh?" That's just what we were discussing, said Harry. We don't know. "Someone couldn't have a grudge against Gryffindor Quidditch team, could they?" said Hagrid anxiously. "First Katie, now Ron." "I can't see why anyone trying to bump off a Quidditch team," said George. "Wood might have done Slytherins if he could have got away with it," said Fred fairly. "Well, I don't think it's Quidditch. I think there's a connection between the attacks," said Hermione quietly. "How'd you work that out?" said Fred. "Well, for one thing, they both ought to have been fatal and weren't, although that was pure luck. And for another, neither the poison nor the necklace seemed to have reached the person it was supposed to kill. Of course," she added broodingly, "that makes the person behind this even more dangerous in a way, because they don't seem to care how many people they finish off before they actually reach their victim." Before anybody could respond to the ominous pronouncement, the dormitory doors opened again, and Mr. and Mrs. Weasley hurried up the ward. They had done no more than satisfy themselves that Ron would make a full recovery on their last visit to the ward. Now Mrs. Weasley seized hold of Harry and hugged him very tightly. "Dumbledore's told us how you saved Ron with a bezoar," she sobbed. "Oh, Harry, what can we say? You saved Ginny, you saved Arthur, and now you've saved Ron." "Don't be, I didn't," muttered Harry awkwardly. "Half our family does seem to owe you their..." "Oh, this is Mr. Weasley. Half our family does seem to owe you their lives. Now I stop and think about it," said Mr. Weasley in a constricted voice. "Well, all I can say is that it was lucky day for Ron Weasley, for the Weasleys, when Ron decided to sit in your compartment on the Hogwarts Express, Harry." Harry could not think of any reply to this, and was almost glad when Madame Pomfrey reminded him that there were only supposed to be 6 visitors around Ron's bed. He and Hermione rose at once to leave, and Hagrid decided to go with them, leaving Ron with his family. "It's terrible," growled Hagrid into his beard, as the 3 of them walked back along the corridor into the marble staircase. "Oh, there's no security, and kids still getting hurt. Dumbledore's worried sick. He don't say much, but I can tell." "Hasn't he got any ideas, Hagrid?" asked Hermione desperately. "I expect he's got hundreds of ideas, brain like his," said Hagrid. "But he doesn't know who sent that necklace, nor put poison in that wine. Or they'd have been caught, wouldn't they? What worries me," said Hagrid, lowering his voice and glancing over his shoulder. Harry, for good measure, checked the ceiling for Peeves. "Is how long Hogwarts can stay open if kids are being attacked. Chamber secrets all over again, isn't it? There'll be panic, more parents taking kids out of school, and next thing you know, the board of governors..." Hagrid stopped, talking as the ghost of a long-haired woman drifted serenely past. then resumed in a hoarse whisper. Board of Governors will be talking about shutting us up for good.
Surely not,
said Hermione, looking worried. Gotta see it from their point of view, said Hagrid heavily. I mean, it's always been a bit of a risk sending kids to Hogwarts, hasn't it? You expect accidents, don't you, with hundreds of underage wizards, all locked up together? But attempted murder, that's different. It's no wonder Dumbledore's angry with Hagrid stopped in his tracks, a familiar, guilty expression on what was visible of his face above his tangled black beard.
What? Said Harry quickly. Dumbledore's angry with Snape.
I never said that, said Hagrid, though his look of panic could not have been a bigger giveaway. Look at the time, it's getting on for midnight. I need to...
Hagrid, why is Dumbledore angry with Snape?
Harry said loudly. Shh, said Hagrid, looking both nervous and angry. Don't shout stuff like that, Harry. You want me to lose my job? Mind, I don't suppose you'd care, would you, now that you've given up care of magical creatures?
Don't try and make me feel guilty, it won't work, said Harry forcefully. What's Snape done?
I don't know, Harry. I shouldn't have heard it at all. I was coming out of the forest the other evening. I overheard him talking, arguing. I didn't like to draw attention to myself, so I sort of skulked and tried not to listen, but it was a heated discussion, and wasn't easy to block it out.
Well,
Harry urged him, as Hagrid shuffled his enormous feet uneasily. Well, I just heard Snape saying Dumbledore took too much for granted, and maybe he, Snape, didn't want to do it anymore.
Do what?
I don't know, Harry. Sounded like Snape was feeling a bit overworked, that's all. Anyway, Dumbledore told him flat out he'd agreed to do it. And that was all there was to it. Pretty firm of him. And then he said something about Snape making investigations in his house, Slytherin. Well, there's nothing strange about that, Hagrid added hastily, as Harry and Hermione exchanged looks full of meaning. All the heads of houses were asked to look into that necklace business.
Yeah, but Dumbledore's not having Rose with the rest of them, is he?
Said Harry. Look, said Hagrid, twisting his crossbow uncomfortably in his hands. There was a loud splintering sound, and it snapped in two. I know what you're like about Snape, Harry, and I don't want to go reading more into this than there is.
Look out,
said Hermione tersely. Then they turned just in time to see the shadow of Argus Filch looming over the wall behind them, before the man himself turned the corner, hunchbacked, his jowls a-quiver. Oh, he wheezed. Out of bed this late? This'll mean detention. No, it won't, Filch, said Hagrid shortly. They're with me, aren't they? And what bloody difference does that make? Asked Filch obnoxiously. I'm a ruddy teacher, aren't I, you sneaking squib? Said Hagrid, firing up at once. There was a nasty hissing noise as Filch swelled with fury. Mrs. Norris had arrived unseen and was twisting herself sinuously around Filch's skinny ankles. Get going, said Hagrid out of the corner of his mouth. Harry did not need telling twice. He and Hermione both hurried off. Hagrid's and Filch's raised voices echoed behind them as they ran. They passed Peeves near the turning into Gryffindor Tower, but he was streaking happily towards the source of the yelling, cackling and calling,
When there's strife, and when there's trouble, call on Peasy, he'll make it double.
The fat lady was snoozing and not pleased to be woken, but swung forward grumpily to allow them into the chamber, into the mercifully peaceful and empty common room. It did not seem that the people knew about Ron yet. Harry was very relieved. He had been interrogated enough that day. Hermione bade him good night and set off for the girls' dormitory. Harry, however, remained behind, taking a seat beside the fire and looking down into the dying embers. Pedro Castillo, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. You've marked us on your map. You should be able to find your way back now. Very next time you seek a story. Wesley, hello. Welcome in. 8 minute of John reading Harry Potter. Sorry, no poke rap tonight, Wesley. Esther, hello. Good to see you. Welcome in. You'll forgive me. My head was down. Duncan, long time no see. Welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Hope that you're doing well, brother. Alright, let's see. I didn't miss anything else. No poke rap. Not tonight. Alright, well, local Wi-Fi is almost gone. Later, Johnny. Good night, Wesley. Rest well. Songbird, thank you for, well, let's see, thank you for the Dini, for the Heart Me, for the Go Popular, for the Dinis, for the Cherry, for the Banana, for the Cream, and for the Hot Dog. Thank you kindly. And Nathan, welcome in. It's good to see you. Alright, let's see, where are we? Still got a ways to go. Okay. Give me just a second, friends. I need to pop up real quick. And I will be right back. Oh, the right time, Alan.
This might be the worst story time ever, and you showed up at the most interesting aspect of it. No, I had to go get some more water. But hello, friends. Hello, welcome in. Grab your seats. We are a few pages in to chapter 19 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, so fill your tankards and your seats, my friend. You trying to drown me, Jaeger? What are you doing? Jaeger just coming in trying to drown me over here. Alright, back in. So Dumbledore had argued with Snape. In spite of all he had told Harry, in spite of his insistence that he trusted Snape completely, he had lost his temper with him. He did not think that Snape had tried hard enough to investigate the Slytherins, or perhaps to investigate a single Slytherin. Malfoy? Was it because Dumbledore did not want Harry to do anything foolish to take matters into his own hands? That he had pretended that there was nothing in Harry's suspicions? That seemed likely. It might even be more that Dumbledore did not want anything to distract Harry from their lessons, or from procuring that memory from Slughorn. Perhaps Dumbledore did not think it was right to confide suspicions about his staff to 16-year-olds. There you are, Potter. Harry jumped to his feet in shock, his wand at the ready. He had been quite convinced that the common room was empty. He had not been at all prepared for a hulking figure to rise suddenly out of a distant chair. A closer look showed him it was Cormac McLaggen. I've been waiting for you to come back, said McLaggen, disregarding Harry's drawn wand. Must have fallen asleep. Look, I saw them taking Weasley to the hospital wing earlier. Didn't look like he'd be fit for next week's match. It took Harry a few moments to realise what McLaggen was talking about. Oh, right. Quidditch, he said, putting his wand back into his belt and running a hand wearily through his hair. Yeah, he might not make it. Well, then I'll be playing keeper, won't I? Said McLaggen. Yeah, said Harry. I suppose so. He could not think of an argument against it. After all, McLaggen had certainly performed second best in the trials. Excellent, said McLaggen in a satisfied voice. So, when's practice? What? Oh, there's one tomorrow evening. Good. Listen, Potter. We should have a talk beforehand. I've got some ideas on strategy you might find useful. Right, said Harry unenthusiastically. Well, I'll hear them tomorrow, then. I'm pretty tired now, so see you. The news that Ron had been poisoned spread quickly the next day, but it did not cause the sensation that Katie's attack had done. People seemed to think that it might have been an accident, given that he had been in the potion master's room at the time, and that he had been given the antidote immediately. There was no real harm done. In fact, the Gryffindors were generally much more interested in the upcoming Quidditch match against Hufflepuff, for many of them wanted to see Zachariah Smith, who played Chaser on the Hufflepuff team, punished soundly for his commentary during the opening match against Slytherin. Harry, however, had never been less interested in Quidditch. He was rapidly becoming obsessed with Draco Malfoy, still checking the Marauders map whenever he got a chance. Sometimes he made detours to wherever Malfoy happened to be, but had not detected him doing anything out of the ordinary. And still, there were those inexplicable times when Malfoy simply vanished from the map. Ashley, thank you for the hi friends, and Songbird, thank you for the I heart you and for the TikToks. The chat is rolling quite quickly, so I'm not catching everything. But thank you kindly, and thank you for sharing the live, Songbird. I appreciate you for that. For everyone who likes and shares when my head is down, it is appreciated.
It means the world, and it makes it so that more people get to share in the stories with us. So thank you kindly, my friends. All right. Where was I? But Harry did not get a lot of time to consider the problem. What with Quidditch practice, homework, and the fact that he was now being dogged wherever he went by Cormac McLaggen and Lavender Brown. He could not decide which of them was more annoying. McLaggen kept up a constant stream of hints that he would be a better permanent keeper for the team than Ron, and that now that Harry was seeing him play regularly, he would surely come around to his way of thinking. He was also keen to criticize the other players and provide Harry with detailed training schemes, so that more than once Harry was forced to remind him who was captain. Meanwhile, Lavender kept sidling up to Harry to discuss Ron, which Harry found almost more wearying than McLaggen's Quidditch lectures. At first, Lavender had been very annoyed that nobody had thought to tell her that Ron was in the hospital wing.
I mean, I'm his girlfriend.
But unfortunately, she had now decided to forgive Harry this lapse of memory and was keen to have lots of in-depth chats with him about Ron's feelings, and most uncomfortable experience that Harry would have happily foregone. Look, why don't you talk to Ron about all this? Harry asked after a particularly long interrogation from Lavender that took in everything from precisely what Ron had said about her new dress robes to whether or not Harry thought that Ron considered his relationship with Lavender to be serious.
Well, I would, but he's always asleep when I go to see him,
said Lavender fretfully. Is he? Said Harry, surprised, for he had found Ron perfectly alert every time he had been up in the hospital wing, both highly interested in the news of Dumbledore and Snape's row and keen to abuse McLaggen as much as possible.
Is Hermione Granger still visiting him?
Lavender demanded suddenly. Yeah, well, I think so. Well, they're friends, aren't they? Said Harry uncomfortably.
Friends? Don't make me laugh,
said Lavender scornfully.
She didn't talk to him for weeks after he started going out with me, but I suppose she wants to make up with him now. He's all interesting.
Would you call getting poisoned being interesting? Asked Harry. Anyway, sorry, I got to go. There's McLaggen coming for a talk about Quidditch, said Harry hurriedly, and he dashed sideways through a door pretending to be solid wall, and sprinted down the shortcut that would take him off to potions where, thankfully, neither Lavender nor McLaggen could follow him. On the morning of the Quidditch match against Hufflepuff, Harry dropped in on the hospital wing before heading down to the pitch. Ron was very agitated. Madame Pomfrey would not let him go down to watch the match, feeling it would overexcite him. I'll be back and forth as I am waiting for my spin bike to be delivered today. Well, that's very exciting, Esther. I hope that it's enjoyable and that you get a great amount of exercise out of it. So, how's McLaggen shaping up? He asked Harry nervously, apparently forgetting that he had already asked the same question twice. Now, I told you, said Harry patiently. He could be world class, and I wouldn't want to keep him. He keeps trying to tell everyone what to do, and he thinks he could play every position better than the rest of us. I can't wait to be a shot of him. Speaking of getting shot of people, Harry added, getting to his feet and picking up his firebolt, will you stop pretending to be asleep when Lavender comes to see you? She's driving me mad as well. Oh, said Ron, looking sheepish. Yeah, all right. If you don't want to go out with her anymore, just tell her, said Harry. Yeah, well, it's not that easy, is it? Said Ron. He paused. Hermione gonna look in before the match? He added casually. No, she's already gone down to the pitch with Ginny. Oh, said Ron, looking rather glum. Right, well, good luck. I hope you hammer Smith.
I'll try, said Harry, shouldering his broom.
See you after the match.
He hurried down through the deserted corridors. The whole school was outside, either already seated in the stadium or heading down toward it. He was looking out the windows he passed, trying to gauge how much wind they were facing, when a noise ahead made him glance up. He saw Malfoy walking toward him, accompanied by two girls, both of whom looked sulky and resentful. Malfoy stopped short at the sight of Harry, then gave a short, humorless laugh and continued walking.
Where are you going?
Harry demanded.
Yeah, I'm really going to tell you because it's your business, Potter,
sneered Malfoy.
You better hurry up. They'll be waiting for the chosen captain, the boy who scored, whatever they call you these days.
One of the girls gave an unwilling giggle. Harry stared at her. She blushed. Malfoy pushed past Harry, and she and her friend followed at a trot, turning the corner and vanishing from view. Aaron, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Harry stood rooted on the spot and watched them disappear. This was infuriating. He was already cutting it fine to get to the match on time, and yet there was Malfoy, skulking off while the rest of the school was absent. Harry's best chance at discovering what Malfoy was up to. Silent seconds trickled past, and Harry remained where he was, frozen, gazing at the place where Malfoy had vanished.
Where have you been?
Demanded Ginny as Harry sprinted into the changing rooms. The whole team was changed and ready. Coot and Peaks, the beaters, were both hitting their clubs nervously against their legs.
I met Malfoy,
Harry told her quietly as he pulled his scarlet robes over his head.
So I wanted to know how he was up at the castle with a couple of girlfriends while everyone else is down here. Does it matter right now? Well, I'm not likely to find out, am I?
Said Harry, seizing his firebolt and pushing his glasses straight.
Come on.
And without another word, he marched out onto the pitch to deafening cheers and boos. There was a little wind, the clouds were patchy, and every now and then there was a dazzling flashes of bright sunlight.
Tricky conditions,
McLagan said bracingly to the team.
Coat, Peaks, you want to fly out of the sun, so they don't see you coming. I'm Captain McLagan. Shut up giving them instructions, said Harry angrily. Just get up to the goalpost.
Once McLagan had marched off, Harry turned to Coot and Peaks.
Make sure you do fly out of the sun, though,
he told them grudgingly. He shook hands with the Hufflepuff captain and then, on Madam Hooch's whistle, kicked off and rose into the air higher than the rest of his team, streaking around the pitch in search of the snitch. If he could catch it, good and early, there might be a chance he could get back up to the castle and seize the Marauders' map and find out what Malfoy was doing.
And that's Smith of the Hufflepuff with the quaffle,
said a dreamy voice. What was that? Oh, Dee, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome into the tavern. I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again, I read you all a bedtime story. Tonight, we are in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So, please grab your seat, fill your tankard, and enjoy stories. That's all right, Matty, that's all right. Sorry, guys, I got a call from Rabbits and had a lovely chat. Again, that's all right, Bear. That's lovely news. It said a dreamy voice echoing over the grounds.
He did the commentary last time, of course, and Ginny Weasley flew into him. I think probably on purpose. It looked like it. Smith was being quite rude about Gryffindor,
I expect he regrets that now he's playing them. Oh, look, he lost the quaffle. Ginny took it from him. I do like her. She's very nice.
Harry stared down at the commentator's podium. Surely nobody in their right mind would have let Luna Lovegood commentate. But even from above there was no mistaking her long, dirty blonde hair, nor the necklace of butterbeer corks. Beside Luna, Professor McGonagall was looking slightly uncomfortable, as though she was indeed having second thoughts about this appointment.
But now, that big Hufflepuff player's got the quaffle from her. I can't remember his name. It's something like Buggins.
"It's Cadwallader," said Professor McGonagall loudly from beside Luna. The crowd laughed. Harry stared around for the snitch, and there was no sign of it. Moments later, Cadwallader scored. McLaggen had been shouting criticism at Jenny for allowing the quaffle out of her possession, with the result that he had not noticed the large red ball soaring past his right ear.
McLaggen! Will you pay attention to what you're supposed to be doing, and leave everyone else alone?
Bellowed Harry, wheeling around to face his keeper.
You're not setting a great example,
McLaggen shouted back, red-faced and furious.
And now Harry Potter's having an argument with his keeper,
said Luna serenely, while both Hufflepuffs and Slytherins below in the crowd cheered and jeered.
I don't think that'll help him find the snitch, but maybe it's a clever ruse.
Swearing angrily, Harry spun around and set off around the pitch again, scanning the skies for some sign of the tiny winged golden ball. Ginny and Demelza scored a goal apiece, giving the red and gold-clad supporters below something to cheer about. Then Cadwallader scored again, making things level. But Luna did not seem to have noticed. She appeared singularly uninterested in such mundane things as the score, and kept attempting to draw the crowd's attention to such things as interestingly shaped clouds and the possibility that Zachariah Smith, who had so far failed to maintain possession of the quaffle for longer than a minute, was suffering from something called loser's lurgy.
70-40 to Hufflepuff,
barked Professor McGonagall into Luna's megaphone.
Is it already?
Said Luna vaguely.
Oh, look, the Gryffindor keeper's got hold of one of the beater's bats.
Harry spun around in mid-air, and sure enough, McLaggen, for reasons best known to himself, had pulled Beak's bat from him and appeared to be demonstrating how to hit a bludger towards oncoming Cadwallader.
Will you give him back his bat and get back to the goalposts?
Roared Harry, pelting toward McLaggen, just as McLaggen took a furious swipe at the bludger and mishit it. A blinding, sickening pain and a flash of light, distant screams and a sensation of falling down a long tunnel, and the next thing Harry knew he was lying in a remarkably warm and comfortable bed, and looking up at a lamp that was throwing a circle of golden light into a shadowy ceiling. He raised his head awkwardly. There, on his left arm, a familiar-looking, freckly, red-haired person.
"Nice of you to drop in," said Ron, grinning. Harry blinked and looked around. Of course, he was in the hospital wing. The sky outside was indigo and streaked with crimson. The match must have finished hours ago. As had any hope of cornering Malfoy. Harry's head felt strangely heavy. He raised his hand and felt a stiff turban of bandages.
What happened?
"Cracked skull,"
said Madame Pomfrey, bustling up and pushing him back into his pillows.
"Nothing to worry about. I mended it at once. But I'm keeping you in overnight. You shouldn't overexert yourself. For a few hours."
"I don't want to stay here overnight," said Harry angrily, sitting up and throwing back his covers. "I want to find McLaggen and kill him."
"I'm afraid that would come under the heading of overexertion,"
said Madame Pomfrey, pushing him firmly back into the bed and raising her wand in a threatening manner.
"You will stay here until I discharge you, Potter, or I shall call the headmaster."
She bustled back into her office. Harry sank back into his pillows, fuming. "Do you know how much we lost by?" he asked Ron through clenched teeth. "Well, yeah, I do," said Ron apologetically. Final score was 300 to 26.
320 to 6. 60. Brilliant, said Harry savagely. Really brilliant. When I get a hold of McLagan. You don't want to get a hold of him. He's the size of a troll, said Ron reasonably. Personally, I think there's a lot to be said for hexing him. That toenail thing of the prince's. Anyway, rest of the team might have dealt with him before you get out of here. They're not happy. There was a note of badly suppressed glee in Ron's voice. Harry could tell he was nothing short of thrilled that McLagan had messed up so badly. Harry lay there, staring up at the patch of light on the ceiling, his recently mended skull not hurting precisely, but feeling slightly tender underneath the bandaging. I could hear match commentary from here, said Ron, his voice now shaking with laughter. I hope Luna always commentates from now on. Losers, Lurgy. But Harry was still too angry to see much humour in the situation, and after a while Ron's snorts subsided. Ginny came in to visit while you were unconscious, he said after a long pause, and Harry's imagination zoomed into overdrive, rapidly constructing a scene in which Jenny, weeping over his lifeless form, confessed her feelings of deep attraction to him while Ron gave them his blessing. She reckons you only just arrived on time for the match. How come? You left here early enough. Oh, said Harry, as the scene in his mind's eye imploded. Yeah, well, I saw Malfoy sneaking off with a couple of girls who didn't look like they wanted to be with him. And that's the second time he's made sure he isn't down in the Quidditch pitch for the rest of the school. He skipped last match too, remember? Harry sighed. Wish I'd followed him now. That match was a fiasco. Don't be stupid, said Ron sharply. You couldn't have missed a Quidditch match just to follow Malfoy. You're the captain. I want to know what he's up to, said Harry. And don't tell me it's all in my head. Not after what I overheard between him and Snape. I never said it was all in your head, said Ron, hoisting himself up on an elbow, in turn and frowning at Harry. But there's no rule saying only one person at a time can be plotting anything in this place. You're getting a bit obsessed with Malfoy, Harry. I mean, thinking about missing a match just to follow him. I want to catch him, said Harry in frustration. I mean, where's he going when he disappears off the map? I don't know. Hogsmeade? Said Ron, yawning. I've never seen him going along any of the secret passageways on the map. I thought they were being watched anyway. Well, then I don't know, said Ron. Silence fell between them. Harry stared up at a circle of lamplight above him, thinking. If only he had Rufus Scrimgeour's power, he would be able to set a tail upon Malfoy, but unfortunately Harry did not have an office full of orders at his command. He thought fleetingly of trying to set something up with the DA, but that again was the problem of people would be missed from lessons. Most of them, after all, still had full schedules. There was a low and rumbling snore from Ron's bed. After a while, Madame Pomfrey came out of her office, this time wearing a thick dressing gown. It was easy to feign sleep. Harry rolled over onto his side and listened to all the curtains closing themselves as she waved her wand. The lamps dimmed and she returned to her office. He heard the door click behind her and he knew she was off to bed. This was, Harry reflected in the darkness, the third time he'd been brought to the hospital wing with a Quidditch injury. Last time he'd fallen off of his broom to the presence of a Dementor around the pitch, and the time before that, all the bones had been removed from his arm by the incomparably inept Professor Lockhart. But that had been the most painful injury by far. He remembered the agony of regrowing an armful of bones in one night. A discomfort not eased by the arrival of an unexpected visitor in the middle of the... Harry sat bolt upright, his heart pounding, his bandaged turban askew. He had a solution at last. There was a way to have Malfoy followed. How could he have forgotten? Why hadn't he thought of it before? But the question was how to call him. What did you do? Quietly, tentatively, Harry spoke into the darkness.
Creature.
There was a very loud crack, and the sound of scuffling and squeaks filled the room. Ron awoke with a yelp. What's going? Harry pointed his wand hastily at the door to Madame Pomfrey's office, and muttered,
Muffliato.
so that she wouldn't come running. Then he scrambled to the end of his bed for a better look at what was going on. Two house elves were rolling on the floor in the middle of the dormitory, one wearing a shrunken maroon jumper and several woolly hats, and the other a filthy old rag strung over his hips like a loincloth. Then there was another loud bang, and Peeves the poltergeist appeared in mid-air above the wrestling elves.
I was watching that, Potty,
He told Harry indignantly, pointing at the fight, before letting out a loud cackle.
Look at the ill creatures squabbling, bitey, punchy.
Creature will not insult Harry Potter.
Oh. Creature will not insult Harry Potter in front of Dobby. No, he won't, or Dobby will shut Creature's mouth for him,
Cried Dobby in a high-pitched voice.
Kicky scratchy.
Cried Peeves happily, now pelting bits of chalk at the elves to enrage them further.
Tweaky pokey.
Creature will say what he likes about his master. Oh yes, and what a master he is. Filthy friend of Mugbloods. Oh, what a poor creature's mistress say.
Exactly what Creature's mistress would have said, they did not find out. For at that moment, Dobby sank his knobbly fist into Creature's mouth and knocked out half of his teeth. Harry and Ron both leapt out of their beds and wrenched the two elves apart, though they continued to try and kick and punch at each other, egged on by Peeves, who swooped around the lamp squealing,
Sticking your fingers up his nose. Draw his cork and pull his earsies.
Harry aimed his wand at Peeves and said, Langlock. Peeves clutched his throat, gulped, and then swooped from the room, making obscene gestures, but unable to speak, owing to the fact that his tongue had just glued itself to the roof of his mouth. Nice one, said Ron appreciatively, lifting Dobby into the air so that his flailing limbs no longer made contact with Creature. That was another princess, wasn't it? Yeah, said Harry, twisting Creature's wizened arm into a half-nosen. Right, I'm forbidding you to fight each other. Well, Creature, you're forbidden to fight Dobby. Dobby, I know I'm not allowed to give you orders, but...
Dobby is a free house elf, and he can obey anyone he likes, and Dobby will do whatever Harry Potter wants him to do,
said Dobby, tears now streaming down his shriveled face onto his jumper. Okay then, said Harry, and he and Ron both released the elves, who fell onto the floor but did not continue fighting.
Master called me,
crowed Creature, sinking into a bow, even as he gave Harry a look of plainly wished him a painful death. Yeah, I did, said Harry, glancing toward Madame Pomfrey's door, to check that the Muffalato spell was still working, and there was no sign that she heard any of the commotion. I've got a job for you.
Creature will do whatever master wants,
said Creature, sinking so low that his lips almost touched his gnarled toes.
His creature has no choice, but Creature is ashamed of such a master, yes.
Dobby will do it, Harry Potter,
squeaked Dobby, his tennis ball-sized eyes still swimming with tears.
Dobby would be honoured to help Harry Potter.
Come to think of it, it would be good to have both of you, said Harry. Okay then, I want you to tail Draco Malfoy. Ignoring the look of mingled surprise and exasperation on Ron's face, Harry went on. I want to know where he's going, who he's meeting, and what he's doing. I want you to follow him around the clock.
Yes, Harry Potter,
said Dobby at once, his great eyes shining with excitement.
And if Dobby goes it wrong, Dobby will throw himself off the topmost tower, Harry Potter.
There won't be a need for that, Harry said hastily.
Master wants me to follow the youngest of the Malfoys,
croaked Creature.
Master wants me to spy upon the pure-blood great-nephew of my old mistress.
That's the one, said Harry, foreseeing a great danger and determining to prevent it immediately. And you're forbidden to tip him off, Creature. or to show him what you're up to, or to talk to him at all, or write him messages, or contact him in any way. Got it? He thought he could see Creature struggling to see a loophole in the instructions. He had just been given and waited. After a moment or two, and Harry's great satisfaction, Creature bowed deeply again and said, with bitter resentment,
Master thinks of everything. Creature must obey him, even though Creature would rather be servant of the Malfoy boy, oh yes.
A settled thing, said Harry. I want regular reports, but make sure I'm not surrounded by people when you turn up. Ron and Hermione are okay. And don't tell anyone what you're doing. Just stick to Malfoy like a couple of wart plasters. And so ends chapter 19 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Arthur Christie, hello! Oh, Badger Raid, I didn't even see you all come in, but hello, welcome in. Let me give you a toot on the raid horde before you leave. I'm going to snooze these real quick. Hang on. Don't feed them after midnight or they'll get sassy. Well, I appreciate the raid in, Arthur Christie. Thank you kindly. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Val, hello. Good to see you over on TikTok. Welcome in. Viking raspberries. Can't live without them. Yeah, that one I messed up a little bit on. I sputtered. All right, my friends, what do we feel? We feeling like we could do... My stream should be more aesthetically better. I just needed to do some interfacing fixing. Spectacular, Marty. That's good to hear. Barkeep, did we get a shout out for Arthur Christie? It's a little ways back, so I can't see it. We did. Thank you for doing the shout out, friends. I appreciate you for that. All right. Well, what do you think, friends? Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you. All right. Should we do another chapter? We're an hour and 30 in. Should we get another chapter in? Throat's feeling all right. I'm a little bit on the dry, but throat's feeling all right. Kristen, good night. I'm so glad we were able to get a whole chapter in before you went to bed. Rest well. Yeah, I think I can do another chapter. Probably not a lot of songs, so we'll probably have to keep it to 2 songs for the interlude and 2 songs for the end. But I think I could probably make it through. Let's see, this is 58. The next chapter is 20 pages, so it is a little bit long. But I think we can manage. I think we can manage. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate you. Yeah, let's go for it. Let me pop up and do a bit of a stretch, and then I'll come back in about 5 minutes. We'll run our ad break over on Twitch, and then we'll do chapter 20. It was an honor to be here, number one here with the best storyteller on YouTube. Alan, you flatter me deeply, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I hope we'll be back again for the next story time. It was very, very good to have you. Yes, please, as long as you're okay, Castle. We'll see how it works out. Kayla, hello. Good to see you, love. Welcome in. Publius, you got in just before I got up to take my break. I'm going to be gone for about 5 minutes and then I'll be back. But hello, my friend. All right. We're gonna run ads over on I'm gonna run ads over on Twitch. I'll pop up for a quick break, and then when I get back, we'll do chapter 20 after a couple of songs. So hang tight, friends. We'll be back with more story time here in just a moment.
Alright, friends, I have returned. Share Bliss, thank you for the heart me over on TikTok. Tips of the tavern, keep it always appreciated. Alright. What... Tyson, I'm pretty sure I said hello to you, but hello, just in case I didn't. What are we looking at for requests? Oh, I see them there. We have Mermaid and Sick Note. We can do both of those. Bear, did you want to do 6 ribbons or did you want to do one more pull? Those are all relatively short, so we can do all of those, I think. A good story time will always do that for you. Kayla, you use the story time to go to bed. That's what good story times are for. That's what they are for. All right, we're gonna pause our mystical music, our magical world of Harry Potter music. Oh, I see. It's true. We haven't done Sick Note in a while, and we haven't done the Mermaid in a while either. Alright, so we're going to pause our magical world of Harry Potter music for the moment. And we're going to... let's do the Mermaid song first. Put the songs together and do 6 more ribbon pulls. No, that is not what I wanted. All right. I want to test my new aesthetic is all. It's good to be excited about new things, Matty. It's good to be excited. When I was a lad in a fishing town, me old man said to me, you can spend your life, your jolly life, just a-sailing on the sea. You can search the world for pretty girls till your eyes are weak and dim, but don't go searching for a mermaid, son, if you don't know how to swim. 'Cause her hair was green as seaweed, her skin was blue and pale, her face it was a work of art. I loved that girl with all my heart, but I only liked the upper part, I did not like the tail. I signed on to a sailing ship, my very first day at sea. I seen a mermaid in the waves just reaching out to me. She said, come live with me. Oh, sorry, I said that backwards. Come live with me in the sea, she said, down on the ocean floor. I'll show you a million wondrous things you've never seen before. So over I jumped and she pulled me down to her seaweed bed. On a pillow made of tortoise shell she placed beneath my head. She fed me shrimp and caviar upon a silver dish. From her head to her waist she was just my taste, but the rest of her was a fish. Yay, congratulations, Esther! 'Cause her hair was green as seaweed, her skin was blue and pale, her face it was a work of art. I loved that girl with all my heart, but I only liked the upper part, I did not like the tail. But then one day she swam away, so I sang to the clams and the whales, oh how I miss her seaweed hair, and the silver shine of her scales. But then her sister she swam by, and gave my heart a whirl, 'cause her upper part was an ugly fish, but the bottom part was a girl. Yes, her hair was green as seaweed, her skin was blue and pale, her legs they were a work of art. I loved that girl with all my heart. Don't give a damn about the upper part, because that's how I get my tail. Thank you for the song, friends. Thank you for the song. Alright, let's do sick note next. And I think we can do one more pull too. I think one more pull will be alright. You fought a fish earlier, Matty? Was that something to do with your meal? You're supposed to cook them after you've killed them. Marissa Love, hello, good to see you. That is the mermaid song. It is silly. I like it a lot. My version is not quite as good as Great Big Seas, but it is pretty good. Tail, the second one. Yeah, the second one. Alright, so knowing Star Wars, you know the fish. Oh, yeah. Admiral Akbar. Half the song was laggy. Tyson, I think something might be wrong with your. No GBS does Mermaid better, but your version of Hoist of the Thing is better. GBS. That's. Who is GBS? Oh, Great Big Sea. All right, you're right. Absolutely. Mermaid. That's what I said. Great Big Sea. Yeah, Great Big Sea does do the mermaid better. I appreciate the compliment about Hoist of the Thing, though. My Hoist of the Thing is still needs work, but the guy called me meat. I'm like, bro, you're literally a walking calamari. Val is back. Hello. All right. So this is a song in the wonderful tradition of Irish music where we sing about happy things in a sad way and sad things in a happy way. This is an old song and it goes by a few different names. Patty and the Beryl, Murphy and the Bricks. It's been known as the Bricklayer Song and it goes a little something like this. Dear sir, I write this note to you to tell you of me plight, for at the time of writing I am not a pretty sight. Me body is all black and blue, me face a deathly grey, and I write this note to say why Paddy's not at work today. Whilst working on the 14th floor, some bricks I had to clear. To throw them down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman wasn't very pleased, and being an awkward sod, he says I'd have to cart them down the ladder in me hod. Now, clearing all these bricks by hand, it was so very slow, so I hoisted up a barrel and secured the rope below. But in me haste to do the job, I was too blind to see that a barrel full of building bricks was heavier than me. So when I untied the rope, the barrel fell like lead. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. I shot up like a rocket till to my dismay I found that halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Well, the barrel broke me shoulder as to the ground it sped, and when I reached the top I banged the pulley with me head. I clung on tightly, numb with shock from this almighty blow, as the barrel spilled out half the bricks some 14 floors below. Now when these bricks had fallen from the barrel to the floor, I then outweighed the barrel and so started down once more, still clinging tightly to the rope, me body racked with pain. When halfway down I met the bloody barrel once again. The force of this collision halfway up the office block caused multiple abrasions and a nasty state of shock. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I fell towards the ground and landed on the broken bricks the barrel scattered round. As I lay there groaning on the ground, I thought I'd passed the worst, but the barrel hit the pulley wheel and then the bottom burst. A shower of bricks rained down on me, I hadn't got a hope. As I lay there bleeding on the ground, I let go the bloody rope. The barrel then being heavier, then started down once more, and landed right across me as I laid upon the floor. It broke 3 ribs in my left arm, and I can only say that I hope you'll understand why Paddy's not at work today. I prefer you singing to other singers. Oh, you flatter me, Esther. Chinese chefs can cook fish in a way that keeps the head alive. That is terrifying, Publius. That sounds horrifying for the fish. I can only imagine some alien might someday cook us that way. Alright, let's finish up with one more pull. And then we will get on to chapter 20. We're going to do one more pull because we haven't done that one in a while. And yeah, we all say collectively, poor Patty. Castle singing is the best. Oh, Ghost of Esther, you flatter me deeply. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. You can cook fish and keep it alive. Keep the head. That's what Publius said. You can cook the fish and keep it alive. It's right there. That is rather terrifying. I'll be back and forth for a bit. That's all right, Frost. Don't push yourself too much, mate. I will. If I start to feel it, I will let you know. That's the most disturbing thing I've heard a while. Yeah, it is special. That is something special. Alright. Here we go. We can do Misty Mountain at the end. I don't see why not. It's been a long time since you've seen her. Could have been 3 years or more. Will she be waiting when we dock, boys? Or like the others, will she be gone? It's one more pull, boys, that'll do, boys. Soon we'll draw alongside, hoist her upward, swing her inboard, for the journey's nearly done. Well, you're looking mighty smart, boy, dressed up in your number ones. You scrounge the new blade from the purser to scrape the bum fluff from off your chin. It's one more pull, boys, that'll do, boys. Soon we'll draw alongside, hoist her upward, swing her inboard, for the journey's nearly done. When we've fixed those bow and stern lines, and you've scuttled down the gangway, if she's waiting there, just kiss her, turn around, give us a smile. It's one more pull, boys, that'll do, boys. Soon we'll draw alongside, hoist her upward, swing her inboard, for the journey's nearly done. Well, we too will go ashore soon, get drunk in the clubs and bars, then stagger homeward, pockets empty, like so many times before. It's one more pull, boys, that'll do, boys. Soon we'll draw alongside, hoist her upward, swing her inboard, for the journey's nearly done. Well, a man may take a wife, boy, and a man may take a mistress, but a sailor has his ship, boys, and his mistress, it is the sea. It's one more pull, boys, that'll do, boys. Soon we'll draw alongside,
Hoist her upward, swing her inboard, for the journey's nearly done. It's one more pull, boys, that'll do, boys. Soon we'll draw alongside. Hoist her upward, swing her inboard, for the journey now is done. Thank you for the songs, my friends. This one was absolutely beautiful. Thank you, my friend. When I get a boat, this will be on my playlist. I'll be happy to come and sing with you, my friend. All right, let's get our music back running again. Shiblis, thank you for the hand heart and thank you for the applause. Ashley and Shiblis, appreciate you. This is surprisingly soothing. Well, GTA, I'm glad that you were able to drop in and join us. We're about to start our second chapter of Storytime for tonight. So let's raise a glass for the end of middle songs. Thank you all for joining. We're going to start chapter 20 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Cheers. Alright, so we have 20 pages in this chapter. That means it'll be roughly, if I read all the way through, no distractions, we'll probably have about 70 minutes of story time left. Oh, Matty, thank you. Beatbox, Johnny boy, hello, my friend. Good to see you. So, back into stories, friends. Here we go. Chapter 20 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Lord Voldemort's request. Publius, have a good night, my friend. Rest well and rise tomorrow ready to face the day. I'm glad you still drop in and enjoy yourself, brother. That's a lot of reading out loud. It is. It is. It's why I'm so wiped out at the end of Storytime, because not just the reading out loud, but doing all of the voices. I have to make sure that I'm very careful, because if I don't, I'll wear my voice out. Alan, I'm glad you enjoyed, and I'm glad that you stuck with us all this time. It will not be a small boat, one to spend some days and nights on, but it will be a beautiful boat. I look forward to it. There's a really beautiful song by Great Big Sea called Gideon Brown, and it always reminds me of my dad. Because my dad always wanted a boat, but he never got around to it. And he passed away without ever having gotten his boat. So the song always reminds me of it. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up something sad, but nobody wants that. I especially don't want that. I like to be able to give you guys story time on cue when I can. Ooh, I need coffee. Go get just a little bit though, Sheer Bliss. It is late. Chapter 20. Lord Voldemort's request. Please don't push your voice. If you need to stop at any time reading for the night, that's fine. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it. I'll let you guys know if I feel like I'm getting burnt out. I think I should be alright though. Harry and Ron left the hospital wing first thing on Monday morning, restored to full health by the ministrations of Madame Pomfrey, and now able to enjoy the benefits of having been knocked out and poisoned, the best of which was that Hermione was friends with Ron again. Hermione even escorted him down to breakfast, bringing with her news that Ginny had argued with Dean. The drowsying creature in Harry's chest suddenly raised its head and sniffed the air hopefully. "What did they row about?" he asked, trying to sound casual as they turned onto the 7th floor corridor that was deserted but for a very small girl who had been examining a tapestry of trolls in tutus. She looked terrified at the sight of the approaching 6 years and dropped a heavy brass scale she was carrying. "It's all right. said Hermione kindly, hurrying forward to help her.
Here,
She tapped the broken scales with her wand and said,
a parrow.
and the girl did not say thank you, but remained rooted on the spot as they passed, and watched them out of sight. Ron glanced back at her.
I swear they're getting smaller,
He said.
Never mind her,
Said Harry a little impatiently.
What did Jenny and Dean row about, Hermione?
Oh, Dean was laughing about McLagan hitting the bludger at you.
Said Hermione.
It must have looked really funny, said Ron reasonably.
It didn't look funny at all,
Said Hermione hotly.
It looked terrible. If Coot and Peaks hadn't caught Harry, he would have been very badly hurt.
Yeah, well, there's no need for Ginny and Dean to split up over it,
Said Harry, still trying to sound casual.
or are they still together?
Yes, they are. Why are you so interested?
Said Hermione, giving Harry a sharp look.
I just don't want my Quidditch team messed up again.
He said hastily, but Hermione continued to look suspicious, as he was mostly relieved when a voice behind them called out,
Harry!
giving him an excuse to turn his back on her.
Oh, hi, Luna.
I went to the hospital wing to find you,
Said Luna, rummaging in her bag.
but they said you'd left.
She thrust what appeared to be a green onion with large spotted toadstools and a considerable amount of what looked like cat litter into Ron's hands. Finally, pulling out a rather grubby scroll of parchment, she handed it to Harry.
I've been told to give this to you.
It was a roll of parchment, which Harry recognized at once as another invitation to a lesson with Dumbledore.
Tonight.
He told Ron and Hermione once he had unrolled it.
Nice commentary last match,
Said Ron to Luna, as she looked back at the green onion and toadstool and cat litter. Luna smiled vaguely.
You're making fun of me, aren't you?
She said.
Everyone says I was dreadful.
No, I'm serious,
Said Ron earnestly.
I can't remember enjoying commentary more. What is this, by the way?
He added, holding the onion-like object up to eye level.
Oh, it's a Gertie root.
She said, stuffing the cat litter and the toadstool back into her bag.
If you can keep it if you like. I've got a few of them. They're really excellent for warding off gulping plimpies.
And she walked away, leaving Ron chortling, still clutching the Gertie root.
You know, she's grown on me, Luna,
He said as they set off again for the Great Hall.
I know she's insane, but it's in a good...
He stopped talking very suddenly. Lavender Brown was standing at the foot of the marble staircase, looking thunderous.
Hi.
Said Ron nervously.
Come on.
I should turn this back up. I turned it down for when I was singing because it can be louder. Kelsey, hello, good to see you. Welcome in.
Come on.
Harry muttered to Hermione as they sped past, though not before they heard Lavender say,
Why didn't you tell me you were getting out today? And why was she with you?
Ron looked both sulky and annoyed when he appeared at breakfast half an hour later. And though he sat with Lavender, Harry did not see them exchange a word all the time they were together. Hermione was acting as though she was quite oblivious to all of this, but once or twice Harry saw an inexplicable smirk cross her face. Oh, that day she seemed to be in a particularly good mood, and that evening, in the common room, she even consented to look over, in other words, finish writing, Harry's apology essay. Something she had been righteously refusing to do up to this point, because she had known that Harry would let Ron copy his work.
Thanks a lot, Hermione,
said Harry, giving her a hasty pat on the back as he checked his watch and saw that it was nearly 8 o'clock.
Listen, I've got to hurry or I'll be late for Dumbledore.
She did not answer, but merely crossed out a few of his feebler sentences in a weary sort of way. Grinning, Harry hurried out through the portrait hole and off to the headmaster's office. The gargoyle leapt aside at the mention of toffee eclairs, and Harry took the spiral staircase 2 steps at a time, knocking at the door just as the clock chimed 8. "Enter!" called Dumbledore, but as Harry put his hand to push the door, it was wrenched open from inside, and there stood Professor Trelawney.
Ah!
She cried, pointing dramatically at Harry as she blinked at him through her magnifying spectacles.
So this is the reason I'm being thrown unceremoniously from your office, Dumbledore?
"My dear Sybil," said Dumbledore in a slightly exasperated tone, "there is no question of throwing you unceremoniously from anywhere. But Harry does have an appointment, and I really don't think there's any more to be said."
Very well,
said Professor Trelawney in a deeply wounded voice.
if you will not banish the usurping nag, so be it. Perhaps I shall find a school where my talents are better appreciated.
She pushed past Harry and disappeared down the spiral staircase. They heard her fumble halfway down, and Harry guessed that she had tripped over one of her trailing shawls. "Please, close the door, Harry. And sit down," said Dumbledore, sounding rather tired. "Sonomi, hello, good to see you, welcome in." Harry obeyed, and he took his usual seat in front of Dumbledore's desk. Then the pensive lay between them once more, as did 2 more shiny crystal bottles full of swirling memories.
Professor Trelawney still isn't happy Ferenz is teaching, then?
Harry asked. "No," said Dumbledore. "Divination is turning out to be more troublesome than I could have foreseen, never having studied the subject myself. I cannot ask Ferenz to return to the forest, where he is now an outcast, nor can I ask Sybil Trelawney to leave. Between ourselves, she has no idea of the danger she would be in outside of the castle. She does not know, and I think it would be unwise to enlighten her, that she made a prophecy about you and Voldemort, you see." Dumbledore heaved a deep sigh and then said, "But never mind my staffing problems. We have here much more important matters to discuss. Firstly, have you managed the task I set you at the end of our previous lesson?" "Ah," said Harry. Hang on a second. Just a moment, friends. I apologize. Huh. Are you guys still hearing the music? Can you guys still hear the... Okay, so the music is still playing. It's a problem on my end then. I'm not sure what the problem is on my end, but there's some kind of problem. Okay, thank you guys, I appreciate that. Thank you, Esther, thank you, Sonomi, Val, Ashley, thank you. Okay. Some issue on my end I'll have to figure out later. Said Harry, brought up short, what with apparition lessons, Quidditch, and Ron being poisoned and getting his skull cracked, and his determination to find out what Draco Malfoy was up to, Harry had almost forgotten about the memory that Dumbledore had asked him to extract from Slughorn. Well, I asked Professor Slughorn about it at the end of Potions, sir, but he wouldn't give it to me. There was a little silence. I see, said Dumbledore eventually, peering at Harry over the top of his half-moon spectacles, and giving Harry the unusual sensation of being X-rayed. And you feel you have exerted your best efforts in this matter, do you? That you have exercised all your considerable ingenuity, and that you have left no depth of your cunning unplumbed in your quest to retrieve the memory? Well, Harry stalled at a loss for what to say next. His single attempt to get a hold of the memory suddenly seemed embarrassingly feeble. Well, the day Ron swallowed the love potion by mistake, I took him to Professor Slughorn. I thought maybe if I got Professor Slughorn in a good enough mood. And did that work? Asked Dumbledore. Well, no, sir, because Ron got poisoned. Which, naturally, made you forget all about trying to retrieve the memory. I would have expected nothing else. While your best friend was in danger. Once it became clear that Mr. Weasley was going to make a full recovery, however, I would have hoped you would have returned to the task I set you. I thought it made it clear. It's very important that memory is. Indeed, I did my best to impress upon you that it is the most crucial memory of all, and that we would be wasting our time without it. A hot, prickly feeling of shame spread from the top of Harry's head all the way down his body. Dumbledore had not raised his voice. He did not even sound angry, but Harry would have preferred him to yell. This cold disappointment was worse than anything. Sir, he said, a little desperately. It isn't that I wasn't bothered or anything. I just had other things. Other things on your mind? Dumbledore finished the sentence for him. I see. Silence fell between them again, the most uncomfortable silence Harry had ever experienced with Dumbledore. It seemed to go on and on, punctuated only by the little grunting snores of the portrait of Armando Dippet over Dumbledore's head. Harry felt strangely diminished, as though he had shrunk a little since he entered the room. When he could not stand it any longer, he said, Professor Dumbledore, I'm really sorry. I should have done more. I should have realized you wouldn't have asked me to do it if it wasn't really important. Thank you for saying that, Harry, said Dumbledore quietly. May I hope, then, that you will give this matter a higher priority from now on? There will be little point in our meeting after tonight, unless we have that memory. I'll do it, sir. I'll get it from him, he said earnestly. Then we shall say no more about it just now, said Dumbledore more kindly. But continue with your story where you left off. You remember where that was? Yes, sir, said Harry quickly. Voldemort had killed his father and his grandparents, and made it look as though his Uncle Morphin did it. Then he went back to Hogwarts and he asked Professor Slughorn about Horcruxes. He mumbled shamefacedly. Very good, said Dumbledore. Now you will remember, I hope, that I told you at the very outset of these meetings of ours that we would be entering the realms of guesswork and speculation. Yes, sir. Thus far, as I hope you agree, I have shown you reasonably firm resources of facts for my deductions of what Voldemort did until age 17. Harry nodded. But now, Harry, said Dumbledore, now things become murkier and stranger. If it was difficult to find evidence about the boy Tom Riddle, it has been almost impossible to find anyone prepared to reminisce about the man, Voldemort. In fact, I doubt whether there is a soul alive, apart from himself, who could give a full account of his life since he left Hogwarts. However, I have 2 last memories I would like to share with you.
Dumbledore indicated the 2 little crystal bottles gleaming beside the pensieve.
I shall then be glad of your opinion as to whether the conclusion I have drawn from them seems likely.
User 79, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome to the tavern, my friend. Background music doesn't play on YouTube, but I'd rather hear you anyway, so I appreciate you, Alan. Can hear music, to quote the Beach Boys. I hear castle and spiral sounds. So Facebook and YouTube don't hear them. That's interesting. Huh. It must be quieter over on those platforms. That is interesting. This is a serious dressing down. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Just a second, friends. Huh. Huh. All right, well. Again, give me just a second, friends. I've never heard the music, but I think that's my laptop, not Twitch. Well, I try to keep the music low. Like, I try not to turn it up too loud, because here, this is... Like, that's the music turned up. So does everybody hear the music now? Because I typically keep it very low so it's not drowning me out and being over the music. Or being over my voice, I guess. Yeah, see, it gets very loud very quickly. Like, obviously I'm louder, but I don't want it to be that loud. I just want it to be... You still get... That's so weird. It's so weird.
All right. Well, who knows? Who knows? It's a great mystery of the day, I suppose. Huh. All right. Well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I appreciate you all for humoring me as I test. Val, thank you for the roses. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. All right, let's get back into stories, friends. I fell asleep again. We did start the chapter. We're just a little ways in. Harry had rushed up to Dumbledore's office and they were recapping what had happened with their lessons up to this point. So that's where we are right now. Brilliant. Alright, let's continue then. I'm starting to fall asleep, but I'm still going to listen. I need this tonight. Alright, Val. Fall asleep. Lay your head down and let me lull you off to rest. So it's the perfect opportunity to do so, and I'll make sure that we end fairly quietly so I don't wake you up if you do fall asleep. Alright. We've got about 15 pages left for this chapter. The idea that Dumbledore valued his opinion this highly made Harry feel even more deeply ashamed that he had failed the task of retrieving the Horcrux memory. And he shifted guiltily in his seat as Dumbledore raised the first of the two bottles to light and examined it. I hope you're not tired of diving into people's memories, for they are curious recollections, these two, he said. The first one came from a very old house elf by the name of Hokey. Before we see what Hokey witnessed, I must quickly recount how Lord Voldemort left Hogwarts. He reached his 7th year of his schooling with, as you might have expected, top grades in every examination he had taken. All around him, his classmates were deciding which jobs they were to pursue once they left Hogwarts. Nearly everybody expected spectacular things from Tom Riddle, prefect, head boy, winner of the award for special services to the school. I know that several teachers, Professor Slughorn amongst them, suggested that he join the Ministry of Magic, offered to set up appointments, put him in touch with his useful contacts. He refused all offers. The next thing the staff knew, Voldemort was working at Borgin and Burke's. At Borgin and Burke's? Harry repeated, stunned. At Borgin and Burke's, repeated Dumbledore calmly. I think we will see what attractions the place held for him when we have entered Hokey's memory. This was not Voldemort's first choice of job. Hardly anyone knew it at the time. I was one of the few in whom then Headmaster confided. But Voldemort had approached Professor Dippet and asked whether he could remain at Hogwarts as a teacher.
He wanted to stay here. Why?
Said Harry, more amazed still.
I believe he had several reasons, though he confided none of them to Professor Dippet, said Dumbledore. Firstly, and very importantly, Voldemort was, I believe, more attached to this school than he has ever been to a person. Hogwarts was where he had been happiest, the first and only place he had felt a home.
Harry felt slightly uncomfortable at these words, for this was exactly how he felt about Hogwarts too.
Secondly, the castle is a stronghold of ancient magic. Undoubtedly, Voldemort had penetrated many more of its secrets than most of the students who passed through this place. But he may have felt that there was still more mysteries to unravel, stores of magic to tap. And thirdly, as a teacher, he would have had great power and influence over young witches and wizards. Perhaps he had gained the idea from Professor Slughorn, the teacher with whom he was on the best terms, who demonstrated how influential a role of a teacher can play. I do not imagine for an instant that Voldemort envisaged spending the rest of his life at Hogwarts, but I do think he saw it as a useful recruiting ground and a place where he might begin to build himself an army.
I want to say thank you to everyone. It means a lot to know you guys are here. Though a lot might be underselling it, I appreciate you too, Matty. It wouldn't be the tavern without you, Matty. It'd be a significantly less talkative tavern without Matty, that's for sure. I think the tavern would be the tavern without Una and Castle too. I feel indebted in a way. The tavern gave me direction and has been there through the hard times. Well, you know the rules of the tavern, Matty. It's always here when you need a story.
But he didn't get the job, sir.
No, he did not. Professor Dibbit told him that he was too young, at 18, but invited him to reapply in a few years, if he still wished to teach.
How did you feel about that, sir?
Asked Harry hesitantly.
Deeply uneasy,
Said Dumbledore.
I had advised Armando against the appointment. I did not give the reasons I have given you, for Professor Dibbit was very fond of Voldemort and convinced of his honesty. But I did not want Lord Voldemort back at this school, and especially not in a position of power.
Which job did he want, sir? What subject did he want to teach?
Somehow Harry knew the answer before Dumbledore gave it.
Defense against the dark arts. It was being taught at the time by an old professor by the name of Galatea Merithort, who had been at Hogwarts for nearly 50 years. So Voldemort went off to Borgin and Berks, and all the staff who had admired him said what a waste it was. A brilliant young wizard like that working in a shop. However, Voldemort was no mere assistant. Polite and handsome and clever, he was soon given particular jobs of the type that only exist in a place like Borgin and Berks. It specializes, as you know, Harry, in objects with unusual and powerful properties. Voldemort was sent to persuade people to part with their treasures for sale by their partners, and he was, by all accounts, unusually gifted at doing this.
I bet he was, said Harry, unable to contain himself.
Well, quiet, said Dumbledore with a faint smile. And now it is time to hear from Hokey, the house elf, who worked for a very old, very rich witch by the name of Hesba Smith.
Dumbledore tapped the bottle with his wand, and the cork flew out, and he tipped the swirling memory into the pensieve, saying as he did so,
After you, Harry.
Harry got to his feet and bent once more over the rippling silver contents of the stone basin, until his face touched them. He tumbled through dark nothingness and landed in a sitting room in front of an immensely fat old lady, wearing an elaborate ginger wig and a brilliant pink set of robes that flowed all around her, giving her the look of a melting iced cake. She was looking into a small jeweled mirror and dabbing rouge onto her already scarlet cheeks with a large powder puff, while the tiniest and oldest house elf Harry had ever seen laced her fleshy feet into a tight satin slippers.
Hello, Pokey,
Said Hesba imperiously.
he said he'd come at 4. It's only a couple of minutes, too, and he's never been late yet.
She tucked away her powder puff, and the house elf straightened up. The top of the elf's head barely reached the seat of Hesba's chair, and her papery skin hung off her frame just like a crisp linen sheet she wore draped like a toga. It sounded like you were playing drums over there. What were you doing? Oh, I see. Like, what are you beating on over there?
I learned the right way to use a can opener, so it will sound like that forever.
I see. Ads in 3.5. All right, let's go ahead and we'll take a very quick break from reading. I'm not going to go anywhere. We'll take a very quick break. I'm going to run the ads, and then we'll get back in. Yes, that is Everett. He's making himself some beans, I think. So one of the grievances that I have with that sink is very loud in the microphone, I just realized.
The sink is loud entirely.
Yeah.
I still question why you don't notice that.
Finally, I am able to make food. Don't ask a teenager that, Castle. That's true. One of the issues I take with Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is that much of the story is told through exposition. And admittedly, it had to be done that way because there's a lot of world building that's done in this book that should have been done over the last 5 books. But she waited until like book 4 and 5 to really do a lot of the world building. So in book 6, the boy, yes, he's in the background. Well, I would expect cooking in a tavern. That's true. Though we do try to serve tastier things than just beans. Well,
Beans themselves are tasty.
right. Well, you see these sections with Dumbledore, where he's literally just telling Harry things that happened in the past. Like we've had probably almost 60 or 70 pages of the 360 pages that we're in, where he is just telling Harry things that happened in the past. And you can have some of that in a book, but Half-Blood Prince has a lot more of it than other parts of the Harry Potter series. And again, she had to do a lot of world building in this book because she had failed to do a lot of that world building in the first 4 books. So when she got to things with the Goblet of Fire, you can see in the way she was writing it that there was a whole lot of things that she was adding that she had changed or shifted a lot because she realized that there was a lot of the world that she hadn't built out. And I'm speculating this. I don't know for sure that this is what happened. But the way that she wrote seemed that way, because then in book 5 there's a lot more backstory, and then in book 6 especially there's a lot more backstory, and the way that it has to be told is through all of these different stories that Dumbledore is telling to Harry. And a lot of these things wouldn't need to be explained if they had been sort of put through earlier on in the series. Ads done. Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you. Ashley, thank you for the Deanie's love. I appreciate you. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Tell Everett I hope he feels better. Ashley says she hopes you feel better, Everett. Everett. Oh, okay. Sometimes he has headphones on, so I can't tell when he hears me.
I can't even use them.
I actually haven't. I have a friend who loves it, but I should try it.
Also, thank you, but when I'm sick, it's 6.
Go on, I'm liking it. Yes, you should. It's good for the nighttime. The lady drinks coffee all throughout the day and then still is able to go to sleep. I don't know how she does that because she drinks very heavily caffeinated coffee.
I do the same thing.
We had pizza last night for our first in over 12 months. It's a vegetarian pizza and a variety of vegetables, excluding pineapple. Sounds tasty, Esther. Should world building be done in the first book or spread out over the series? You have to do it slowly, because if you just do a bunch of exposition and dump in, like think about The Hobbit. Think about how much world building was done in The Hobbit that Lord of the Rings was then able to build on top of, right? There's a lot of really intricate world building that's done in The Hobbit, but it's done slowly and it's done sort of naturally. There's not like this beating people over the head with here's all of this information you need to know for the world to make sense. There's little comments here and there, and Tolkien doesn't do this perfectly in The Hobbit. There are some instances of, oh, you know how trolls be, sort of thing. But, yeah, and Bilbo is finding out as we find out. He's learning about the world more in depth as we are finding out about it. Esther, you said, I can't drink coffee midday or else I'm up all night climbing the ceilings. Understandable. Sword Talk, hello! Good to see you. Welcome in. I find world building is easier through dialogue and action. It is. Now, the easy way to do world building is through exposition dump. But what you find is that the story flows a lot better if you can do it naturally through dialogue and action in the story, where the characters are learning and exposing things in a natural sort of way. Like, if she gets around a lot of this because Harry isn't from the magical world, but she also leans on that very heavily. Like, Harry has been at Hogwarts for 6 years, but she still leans on the, oh, Harry is ignorant of the magical world trope in order to expose things in the magical world. And by the 6th book, it doesn't make as much sense as it does in the first 2 books. Like, he should have had a lot of learning that happened in the first 2 books, and then in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th book, it should be him experiencing those things as other people experience them, whereas he still has things that are being told to him in sort of an expository sort of way. I have an issue with, after eating, I fall asleep regardless of what I want to or not. I even tried Cafento Combat and it still found it drooling on my desk. When you overwork, that tends to happen, Gunnar. That's my brother has that, and it is definitely an issue when you overwork. In my book, I've chosen to reveal what wielders are until chapter 3, but I'm teasing it in chapter 1. Right, and you just have to respect your audience's. You have to respect your audience's intelligence enough to say, look, here's this thing, and here's what it does, and let them be smart enough to figure the rest out. I don't think there's hardly any in the first 5 books, none notable that I can even think of. Yeah, there's very little of it in the first 5 books. She starts leaning into it in the 5th book, because I think in book 4, she realized that she hadn't done enough world building for the things that she wanted to do in the later books. And so near the end of like the Order of the Phoenix, you get a lot of like middle and end of Order of the Phoenix, you get a lot of like serious explaining things, and there being this explaining of things that happen. Harry's parents die because there was a prophecy that said a child born on the day that Harry was born would usurp the Dark Lord, would defeat the Dark Lord. But Voldemort did not have the full context of that, so Voldemort had to choose between Harry or Neville, and he ended up choosing Harry, and Harry's parents then died because Peter Pettigrew betrayed them, more or less is what happens. It's because Auntie Riri being one, it makes it easy to do it that way. Right. And again, you have to... If he chose Neville, the whole book series would have been over book 1, right? Right. Digger, hello! Long time no see, my friend. Glad you're able to drop in. I hope you and Dimples are well. There is a theory that it could have been Neville. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, she didn't do enough world building in the first 5 books, and most of it was just like, oh, look at the pretty spell and what it does, and didn't do enough of like, where did that come from? So now in this book, there's almost 60 pages of Dumbledore, and we're only a little over halfway through. And there's been almost 60 pages of Dumbledore just explaining things to Harry. So wait, because he chose door 1 instead of door 2, it would have been a wash, but we don't know that until the end. Do we know Harry and Neville are born on the same day? Yes, we do. Harry and Neville are both born on the same day. They have the same birthday. And they both have the same context of their birth as well. And that is what was the basis for the prediction of who would cause the fall of... So we see that in the last book, in Order of the Phoenix. All of that comes to us in the Order of the Phoenix. We learn a little bit about it in the 4th book, but it's fully revealed in the 5th book. I don't know if they share a birthday necessarily, but it's born in August. I believe they do share a birthday, but I might be misremembering that. The other Potterheads in here will probably know better than I. I believe so. I believe that that's the point. Oh, they're born a day apart. They're born a day apart. But they're both born in the same year in July. They're born a day apart. So the prophecy was not specific to the day, but to the time and context of the birth. Thank you, Mary Beth. I appreciate you for that. January 31st, Maddie. Yeah, same month, not same day. Okay, all right. No trouble, Gunnar. No trouble. Let's get back to reading so that I can get you all off to bed at a reasonable hour tonight. Thank you, Val. I appreciate you. All right, where were we? How do I look? Said, I swear this name is Hepzibah. Turning her head to admire the various angles of her face in the mirror. Lovely, madam, squeaked Hokey. Harry could only assume that it was down in Hokey's contract that she must lie through her teeth when asked this question, because Hepzibah Smith looked a long way from lovely in his opinion. A tinkling doorbell rang, and both the mistress and elf jumped. Quick, quick, his hair, Hokey, cried Hepzibah, and the elf scurried out of the room, which was so crammed with objects that it was difficult to see how anybody could navigate their way across it without knocking over at least a dozen things. There were cabinets full of little lacquered boxes, and cases full of gold-embossed books, shelves of orbs and celestial globes, and many flourishing potted plants in brass containers. In fact, the room looked like a cross between a magical antique shop and a conservatory. The house elf returned within minutes, followed by a tall young man Harry had no difficulty whatsoever recognizing as Voldemort. He was plainly dressed in a black suit, his hair was a little longer than it had been at school, and his cheeks were hollowed. But all of this suited him. He looked more handsome than ever. He picked his way through the cramped room with an air that showed he had visited many times before, and bowed low over Hepzibah's fat little hand, brushing it with his lips. "I brought you flowers," he said quietly, producing a bunch of roses from nowhere.
"Oh, you naughty boy, you shouldn't have,"
squealed Hepzibah, though Harry noticed that she had an empty vase standing ready at the nearest little table.
"You do spoil this old lady, Tom. Sit down, sit down. Where's Hokey? Ah,
The house elf had come dashing back into the room carrying a tray of little cakes, which she set at her mistress's elbow.
help yourself, Tom,"
said Hepzibah.
"I know how you love my little cakes. Now, are you... You look pale. They overwork you at that shop. I've said it 100 times.
Voldemort smiled mechanically, and Hepzibah simpered.
"Well, what's your excuse for visiting this time?"
she asked, batting her lashes.
"Mr. Burke would like to make an improved offer on the goblin-made armour,"
said Voldemort.
500 galleons. He feels it's more than fair." "No, not so fast. Or I'll think you're only here for my trinkets,"
pouted Hepzibah.
"I am ordered here because of them," said Voldemort quietly. "I'm only a poor assistant, madam, who must do as he is told. Mr. Burke wishes me to inquire." "Oh, Mr. Burke, phooey," said Hepzibah, waving a little hand. "I've something to show you that I've never shown Mr. Burke. Can you keep a secret, Tom? Will you promise you won't tell Mr. Burke I've got it? He'd never let me rest if he'd known I'd shown it to you. And I'm not selling it, not to Burke, not to anyone. But you, Tom, would appreciate it for its history, not how many galleons you can get from it."
"I'll be glad to see anything Miss Hepzibah shows me," said Voldemort quietly, and Hepzibah gave another girlish giggle.
"Hokey, bring it out for me. Hokey, where are you? I want to show Mr. Riddle the finest treasure, in fact. Bring both while you're at it." "Here, madam,"
squeaked the house elf, and Harry saw 2 leather boxes, one on top of the other, moving across the room as if of their own volition, though he knew the tiny elf was holding them up over her head as she wended her way between tables, poufs, and footstools.
"Now,"
said Hepzibah, happily taking the boxes from the elf and laying them on her lap, and preparing to open the topmost one.
"I think you'll like this, Tom. Oh, if my family knew I was showing you. They can't wait to get their hands on this."
She opened the lid. Harry edged forward a little to get a better view and saw something that looked like a small golden cup with 2 finely wrought handles.
"I wonder whether you know what it is, Tom. Pick it up. Have a good look,"
whispered Hepzibah, and Voldemort stretched out a long-fingered hand and lifted the cup by one handle out of its snug silken wrappings. Harry thought he saw a red gleam in his dark eyes. His greedy expression was curiously mirrored on Hepzibah's face, except her tiny eyes were fixed upon Voldemort's handsome features. "A badger," murmured Voldemort, examining the engraving upon the cup. "Then this was—"
"Helga Hufflepuff, as you very well know, you clever boy,"
said Hepzibah, leaning forward with a loud creaking of corsets and actually pinching his hollow cheek.
"Didn't I tell you I was decently descended? This has been handed down in the family for years and years. Lovely, isn't it? And all sorts of power it's supposed to possess too, but I haven't tested them thoroughly. I just keep it nice and safe in here."
She hooked the cup back off of Voldemort's long forefinger and restored it gently to its box, too intent upon settling it carefully back into position to notice the shadow that crossed Voldemort's face as the cup was taken away.
"Now then,"
said Hepzibah happily.
"where's Hokey? Oh, yes, there you are. Take that away, Hokey."
The elf obediently took the box cup, and Hepzibah turned her attention to the much flatter box in her lap.
"I think you will like this even more, Tom,"
she whispered.
"Lean in a little, dear boy, so you can see, of course. Burke knows I've got this one. I bought it from him, and I dare say he'd love to get it back when I'm gone."
She slid back a fine filigree clasp and flipped open the box. There, upon a smooth crimson velvet, lay a heavy golden locket. Voldemort reached out his hand without invitation this time and held it up to the light, staring at it.
"Slytherin's mark,"
he said quietly as the light played upon the ornate serpentine S.
"That's right,"
said Hepzibah, delighted, apparently at the sight of Voldemort gazing at her locket transfixed.
"I had to pay an arm and a leg for it, but I couldn't let it pass, not a real treasure like that. Had to have it for my collection. Burke bought it, apparently, from a ragged-looking woman who seemed to have stolen it, but had no idea its true value."
There was no mistaking it this time. Voldemort's eyes had flashed scarlet at the words, and Harry saw his knuckles whiten on the locket's chain.
"I dare say Burke paid her a pittance for it. But you are pretty, isn't it? And again, all the kinds of powers attributed to it, though I just keep it nice and safe."
She reached out to take the locket back. For a moment, Harry thought Voldemort was going to let go of it, but then wasn't going to let go of it. But then it had slid through his fingers and was back on the red velvet cushion.
"So there you are, dear Tom. I hope you enjoyed that."
She looked at him full in the face for the first time, and Harry saw her foolish smile falter.
"Are you all right, dear?"
"Oh, yes," said Voldemort quietly. "Yes, I'm very well."
"I thought... Oh, but trick of the light, I suppose?"
said Hepzibah, looking unnerved, and Harry guessed that she too had seen the momentary red gleam in Voldemort's eyes.
"Here, Hokey, take these away and lock them up again. The usual enchantments."
"Time to leave, Harry," said Dumbledore quietly, as the little elf bobbed away bearing the boxes. Dumbledore grasped Harry once more above the elbow, and together they rose as through oblivion and back to Dumbledore's office. Viking King Tim, thank you for the deedies, my friend. Cheers! Thank you kindly, brother. Hepzibah was an empress witch in Bewitched, showing my old age. Well, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. Thank you for the deedies, my friend. You and Ashley got us halfway, 80% to the... I didn't even realize it set a Deanie goal. But thank you kindly. Frost, good night, my friend. Rest well. I hope you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. Marybeth, you said Sybil Trelawney foretold that a child born at the end of July to parents who had defied Voldemort 3 times would have the power to defeat him. Thank you, Marybeth. I appreciate you for that. Nitso, hello, my friend. Welcome in. Glad to have you. I'm not sure. What is a deny? Once I'm further through editing, want to see the progress castle? If you'd like to show me, Matty. Kristalla, hello. Oh, Deanie. There is gifts over on TikTok. They're sort of like stars over on Facebook. Tim gifted us 33 Deanies and Ashley had done 14 earlier. All is well, Tim, all is well. I'm glad you could drop in to join us, my friend. We've got about 8 pages left in the chapter. Hepzibah Smith died 2 days after that little scene, said Dumbledore, resuming his seat and indicating that Harry should do the same. Hokey, the house elf, was convicted by the Ministry of poisoning her mistress's evening cocoa by accident.
No way, said Harry angrily.
I see we are of one mind, said Dumbledore. Certainly there are many similarities between this tale and that of the riddles. In both cases, somebody else took the blame. Someone who had clear memory of having caused the death.
Hokey confessed.
She remembered putting something in her mistress's cocoa that turned out not to be sugar, but a lethal and little-known poison, said Dumbledore. It was concluded that she had not meant to do it, but being old and confused.
Voldemort modified her memory, just like he did with Morphin.
Yes, that is my conclusion too, said Dumbledore. And, just as with Morphin, the Ministry was predisposed to suspect Hokey.
Because she was a house elf, said Harry. He had rarely felt more sympathy with the society Hermione had set up. Spew.
Precisely, said Dumbledore. She was old and admitted to having tampered with the drink, and nobody in the Ministry bothered to inquire further. As in the case of Morphin, by the time I traced her and managed to extract this memory, her life was almost over. But her memory, of course, proves nothing except that Voldemort knew of the existence of the cup and the locket.
Tim, thank you for the Deanies and the Heartbeat, brother. Deeply appreciated. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Your generosity is as well. Thank you kindly, my friend. Thanks for reading, Castle. I need to get to sleep. Good night. Good night, Mary Beth. Thank you for helping with the Lord, and thank you for being in. That's why I'm asking. I want to make sure it's going in the right direction. Well, if that's what you would like, then I'd be more than happy to give you guidance along the way. And take it as you can. That would be on TikTok, Esther. Again, it's the same. It's DINI, so they're called Tiny Dinies, but for the longest time I mispronounced them as Teeny Deenies. So we've been calling them Teeny Deenies, but they're Tiny Dinies over on TikTok. But they're similar to stars on Facebook and bits on TikTok. So you can give bits on TikTok, you can give Deenies and a bunch of other gifts on TikTok, and then Facebook has stars. And then there are super chats and whatever over on YouTube. My ADHD couldn't handle it. I had to complete the goal. It is deeply appreciated, my friend. Thank you kindly. I'm taking all your advice as much as I can remember. I'm glad that you find it valuable, Matty, and hopefully it will lead to a good book. Keep in mind, I've not yet published a book. I've written many, but I've not published a book, so my experience comes mostly from studying the works of others and being in the industry for a long time. Alright, let's continue.
By the time Hokey was convicted, Hepzibah's family had realized that the two of her greatest treasures were missing. It took them a while to be sure of this, for she had many hiding places, having always guarded her collection most jealously. But before they were sure beyond a doubt where the cup and locket were both gone, the assistant who had worked with Borgin and Burks, the young man who had visited Hepzibah so regularly and charmed her so well, had resigned his post and vanished. His superiors had no idea where he had gone. They were as surprised as anyone at the disappearance, and that was the last that was seen or heard of Tom Riddle for a very long time. Now, said Dumbledore, if you don't mind, Harry, I want to pause once more to draw your attention to certain points of our story. Voldemort had committed another murder, whether it was his first, since he killed the riddles, I do not know. But I think it was. This time, as you will have seen, he killed not for revenge, but for gain. He wanted the two fabulous trophies that poor besotted old woman showed him. Just as he had once robbed the other children at his orphanage, just as he had stolen his uncle Morphin's ring, so he had run off with Hepzibah's cup and locket.
But, said Harry frowning, it seems mad, risking everything, throwing away his job, for those.
Mad to you, perhaps, but not to Voldemort. I hope you will understand in due course exactly what those objects meant to him, Harry. But you must admit that it is not difficult to imagine what he saw, in the locket at least, as rightfully his.
The locket, maybe, said Harry. But why take the cup as well?
It had belonged to another of Hogwarts' founders, said Dumbledore. I think he still felt a great pull towards a school, and that he could not resist an object so steeped in Hogwarts history. There were other reasons, I think. I hope to be able to demonstrate them to you in due course. And now for the very last recollection I have to show you, at least until you manage to retrieve Professor Slughorn's memory for us. 10 years separate Hokey's memory is this one. 10 years during which we can only guess what Lord Voldemort was doing.
Harry got to his feet once more, and Dumbledore emptied the last memory into the pensieve. Whose memory is it? He asked.
Mine,
said Dumbledore. And Harry dived after Dumbledore through the shifting silver mass, landing in the very office he had just left. There was Fox, slumbering happily on his perch, and there behind the desk. Bye, Castle, I'm taking Nibbles to work. Take care. Good night, Diggo. Rest well. Well, it's not rest. You're taking Dimples to work. Drive safely, and give Dimples all of the tavern love that you can muster. It's deeply appreciated, my friend. Have a good day. Thank you for dropping in. There, behind the desk, was Dumbledore, who looked very similar to the Dumbledore standing beside Harry, though both hands were whole and undamaged, and his face was perhaps a little less lined. The one difference between present-day office and this one was that it was snowing in the past. Bluish flecks were drifting past the window in the dark and building up on the outside ledge. The younger Dumbledore seemed to be waiting for something, and sure enough, moments after their arrival, there was a knock on the door, and he said, "Enter!" Harry let out a hastily stifled gasp. Voldemort had entered the room, his features not those Harry had seen emerge from the great stone cauldron almost 2 years ago. They were not as snake-like, the eyes were not yet scarlet, and the face was not yet mask-like, and yet he was no longer handsome. Tom Riddle, it was as though his features had been burned and blurred. They were waxy and oddly distorted, and the whites of his eyes now had permanently bloody look, though the pupils were not yet slits that Harry knew they would become. He was wearing a long black cloak, and his face was pale as the snow glistening on his shoulders. The Dumbledore behind the desk showed no sign of surprise. Evidently, this visit had been made by appointment.
"Good evening, Tom,"
said Dumbledore easily.
"Won't you sit down?"
"Thank you," said Voldemort. He took the seat at which Dumbledore had gestured, the very seat, by the looks of it, that Harry had just vacated in the present.
"I heard that you had become headmaster,"
he said, and his voice was slightly higher and colder than it had been.
"A worthy choice. I'm glad you approve,"
said Dumbledore, smiling.
"May I offer you a drink?" That would be welcome, said Dumbledore. I came a long way. Dumbledore stood and swept over to the cabinet where he now kept the pensieve, but which was then full of bottles. Having handed Voldemort a goblet of wine and poured one for himself, he returned to the seat behind the desk. So, Tom, to what do I owe the pleasure? Voldemort did not answer at once, but merely sipped his wine. They do not call me Tom anymore, he said. These days I am known as... I know what you are known as, said Dumbledore, smiling pleasantly. But to me, I'm afraid, you will always be Tom Riddle. It is one of the irritating things about old teachers. I'm afraid that they never quite forget their charges, being youthful beings. He raised his glass as though toasting Voldemort, though whose face remained expressionless. Nevertheless, Harry felt the atmosphere of the room change subtly. Dumbledore's refusal to use Voldemort's chosen name was a refusal to allow Voldemort to dictate the terms of the meeting, and Harry could tell that Voldemort took it as such. I'm surprised that you have remained here so long, said Voldemort after a short pause. I always wondered why a wizard, such as yourself, never wished to leave school. Well, said Dumbledore, still smiling, to wizards such as myself, there can be nothing more important than passing on ancient skills, helping hone young minds. If I remember correctly, you once saw the attraction of teaching too. I still see it, said Voldemort. I merely wondered why you, who are so often asked for advice by the ministry, and who have twice, I think, been offered the position of minister. 3 times at last I count, actually, said Dumbledore. But the ministry never attracted me as a career. Again, something we have in common, I think. Voldemort inclined his head, unsmiling, and took another sip of the wine. Dumbledore did not break the silence that stretched between them now, but waited with a look of pleasant expectancy for Voldemort to talk first. I've returned, he said after a little while. Later, perhaps, than Professor Dippet expected. But I have returned, nevertheless, to request again what he once told me I was too young to have. I've come to ask that you permit me to return to this castle, to teach. I think you must know that I have seen and done much since I left this place. I could show and tell your students things that they can gain from no other wizard. Dumbledore considered Voldemort over the top of his own goblet for a while before speaking. Yes, I certainly do know that you have seen and done much since leaving us, he said quietly. Rumours of your doings have reached your old school, Tom. I should be sorry to believe half of them. Voldemort's expression remained impassive as he said, Greatness inspires envy. Envy inspires spite. Spite spawns lies. You must know this, Dumbledore. You call it greatness. What you have been doing, do you? Said Dumbledore delicately. Certainly, said Voldemort, and his eyes seemed to burn red. I have experimented. I have pushed the boundaries of magic further, perhaps, than they have ever been pushed. Of some kinds of magic, Dumbledore corrected him quietly. Of some. Of others you remain, forgive me, woefully ignorant. The first time Voldemort smiled. It was a taut leer, an evil thing more threatening than a look of rage. The old argument, he said softly. But nothing I've seen in the world has supported your famous pronouncement that love is more powerful than any kind of magic, Dumbledore. Perhaps you have been looking in the wrong places, suggested Dumbledore. Well then, what better place to start my fresh research than here, at Hogwarts? Said Voldemort. Will you let me return? Will you let me share my knowledge with your students? I place myself and my talents at your disposal. I am yours to command. Dumbledore raised his eyebrows. And what will become of those whom you command? What will happen to those who call themselves, or so rumour has it, the Death Eaters? Harry could tell that Voldemort had not expected Dumbledore to know this name. He saw Voldemort's eyes flash red again, and the slit-like nostrils flared. My friends, he said after a moment's pause, will carry on without me, I'm sure. I am glad to hear that you consider them friends, said Dumbledore. I was under the impression that they are more in an order of servants. You are mistaken, said Voldemort. Then if I were to go to the Hogshead tonight, I would not find a group of them, not Rosaire, Merselba and Dolohov, awaiting your return. Devoted friends indeed, to travel this far with you on a snowy night, merely to wish you luck as you attempt to secure a teaching post. There could be no doubt that Dumbledore's detailed knowledge of those with whom he was travelling was even less welcome to Voldemort. However, he rallied almost at once. You are as omniscient as ever, Dumbledore? Oh, no, merely a friend of the local barman, said Dumbledore lightly. Now, Tom. Dumbledore set down his empty glass and drew himself up in his seat, the tips of his fingers together in a very characteristic gesture. Let us speak openly. Why have you come here tonight, surrounded by henchmen, to request a job we both know you do not want? Voldemort looked coldly surprised. A job I do not want. The contrary, Dumbledore. I want it very much. Oh, you want to come back to Hogwarts, but you do not want to teach any more than you wanted to teach when you were 18. What is it you're after, Tom? Why not try an open request for once? Voldemort steered. If you do not want to give me a job. Of course I don't, said Dumbledore. And I don't think for a moment you expect me to. Nevertheless, you came here. You asked. You must have had a purpose. Voldemort stood up. He looked less like Tom Riddle than ever, his features thick with rage. This is your final word. It is, said Dumbledore, also standing. Then we have nothing more to say to each other. No, nothing, said Dumbledore, and a great sadness filled his face. The time is long gone, and I could frighten you with a burning wardrobe and force you to make repayment for your crimes. I wish I could, Tom. I wish I could. For a second, Harry was on the verge of shouting a pointless warning. He was sure that Voldemort's hand had twitched towards his pocket and his wand. But then the moment passed. Voldemort had turned away, and the door was closed. He was gone. Harry felt Dumbledore's hand close over his arm again, and moments later, they were standing together on almost the same spot, and there was no snow building on the window ledge. Dumbledore's hand was blackened and dead-looking once more. Why? Said Harry at once, looking up at Dumbledore's face. Why did he come back? Did you ever find out? I have ideas, said Dumbledore, but no more than that. What ideas, sir? I shall tell you, Harry, when you have retrieved the memory from Professor Slughorn, said Dumbledore. When you have that last piece of the jigsaw, everything will, I hope, Be clear to both of us. Harry was still burning with curiosity, even though Dumbledore had walked to the door and was holding it open for him. He did not move at once.
Was he after the Defense Against the Dark Art job again, sir? He didn't say.
Oh, he definitely wanted the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, said Dumbledore. The aftermath of our little meeting proved that. You see, we have never been able to keep a Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher for longer than a year since I refused the post to Lord Voldemort. And so ends Chapter 20 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And a hell of a chapter it was, my friends. All I can do, Jaeger is correct, Matty. All I can do is show the way. And gratitude is always good. You should always be grateful to those who give you things and to those who guide you. But really, all I can provide is a light of the ways that I have already walked, or the light of the ways that those who taught me have already walked. It's really up to you whether you take it. I've given advice to hundreds, if not thousands of people in my life, and very few take the advice. So whether you take advice is entirely up to you. Sheer Bliss, I'm glad that you enjoyed. I'm very glad that you spent the evening with us. Shinobi, I'm glad you enjoyed as well. I'm glad all of you, well, for those of you who did enjoy, I'm glad that you did enjoy yourselves here. It means the world to me. But now we must do our final songs and I'll send you out. My voice is very tired, but I think I can manage Misty Mountain. Yosununa's advice is invaluable to me. And we're happy to give it, Matty. And we appreciate the respect of you carrying it and treating it with respect. Good night, Nitso. Have a wonderful night, my friend. I'm glad that you dropped in. I'm glad to be seeing you more. It is very good to see you. It is wonderful. I hope that you're doing well, my friend. I hope everything with work is all right. All right, let's do Misty Mountain for Esther, and then I will send you all off into the realms there in which you live. And I'll rest my voice for the night. We're going to do the short version of Misty Mountains again with Peter Holland's version of the song. My only job is being a mod here on Twitch for people like it. Nitso, I thought you were working on something last time that we had a long engagement. You were working on something. I don't remember what it was. But my brain has me remembering you working on something. Well, cheers to that, Matty. I hope that will bring you some fulfillment. I was working on donating plasma, but it never happened. Still trying. Well, I guess best of luck with that. I remember you talking about a project you were working on, but I might be remembering something else. But whatever you're doing in your life, my friend, I hope that it is going well for you. I'll just say that. You've been around Kitty's community for a very long time, and likewise, you've been transient to mine quite a bit. So I'm glad that you're still here, and I'm glad that you enjoy yourself when you are. Oh, Bear, I didn't see that you said that is true. That is true. I do have the festival's book. Though I wouldn't call that a proper book. There's no narrative in it, but thank you, Milu, you and Bear, for promoting the festival's book. I appreciate you both. It's fun. Sometimes a bit lonely, but fun time. Still fun. Yeah. Streaming is a very interesting thing because it is sort of the public square of entertaining people. And it's always been something that I've had fun with. Though the way we do it in the tavern is far different than I've ever done it anywhere else. This is more like doing live stage storytelling than anything else I've ever done. Alright, let's do some Misty Mountain before my voice wears out. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find a long forgotten gold. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light. The wind was on the withered heath, but in the forest stirred no leaf. Their shadows lay, be night or day, and dark things silent crept beneath. The wind went on from west to east, all movement in the forest ceased, but shrill and harsh across the marsh, its whistling voices were released. Farewell we call to hearth and hall, though wind may blow and rain may fall, we must away ere break of day, far o'er the wood and mountain tall, far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and shadow and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find a long forgotten gold. Thank you for the songs, my friends. Thank you for the stories. Thank you for the company. It's always lovely to spend them with you here in the tavern. Sheer bliss. I wish you well. I'm glad you were able to join us. Thank you for your generosity, your tips tonight. To everybody who tipped the tavern keeper tonight, thank you very much. It is deeply appreciated. Thank you to Viking Tim and Ashley for getting us to our gift goal over on TikTok. It does help to keep the tavern doors open. And to everybody who sits and watches the ads and who joins us for everything, thank you kindly for your support of the tavern. And a big thank you to all of our tavern barkeeps for keeping everybody safe and engaged during story time.
Good singing after talking for 3 hours. Wish I would have subbed sooner and not missed most of it. Harry Potter is one of my favorite. Half Blood Prince is one of my favorite Harry Potter books. It was the first one I bought for myself. Well, Tintin, is it Tintin or Tonton like the story? I'm glad that you came in, and I'm glad that you made it in at least for the end. We still have almost half the book to go, so I hope you'll join us for the rest. I do Harry Potter on Thursdays, and we do Silverthorn, which is another fantasy book, on Tuesdays. I'm very glad you enjoyed yourself, and I'm very glad that you subbed. Thank you for the sub, by the way. It means the world to us, and I'm glad that you found your way into the tavern. Good night, my friend. Until next time, always my pleasure. Always a pleasure, Tim. I'm glad you made it. And to everyone who has just recently marked the tavern on your map, that's what happens when you follow. You mark us on your map. I am Castle, and this is my tavern, a place at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every now and again, I read you all a bedtime story. So, Tintin. Okay, excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing you back again, Tintin. Very good to have you. And for everyone, our regulars and for the new folk, know that the lady and I love you all, and we're very glad to have you whenever you join us. The lady will be back on Sunday for reading Son of Shadows. And it is sad that the tavern doors must close now, but believe me, they will open again. And when they do, we will all enjoy stories again together. So until then, my friends, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty. And we will see you next time. Good night, my friends.